the road. But in the north and west, it stays dry for now. However, from Monday, we return to a northwesterly wind, which brings in much cooler air. Bye-bye.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss my big opinion. Mark Meets and my take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Outcry as England's manager rules out singing the national anthem at tonight's game against the Republic of Ireland.
Lee Carsley risks furious backlash as he takes charge of the England team for the first time.
He admits he struggles with singing God Save the King after playing for the Republic of Ireland dozens of times.
On the same day, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer meets Irish Taoiseach Simon Harris as he looks to repair post-Brexit relations.
Ahead of the 2-year anniversary of the Queen's death, the new government has announced a memorial in her honour.
And Oasis may have angered fans with their ticket prices, but not enough to stop the duo from returning to the top of the music charts for the first time in a decade.
Also for you this morning, a furious online debate has been sparked after a large man struggled to fit into a plane seat. So this morning we're asking, is it time to charge bigger passengers more money?
And Britain's annual Viking Festival gets underway to mark the anniversary of the Battle of Largs.
There was heartache at Flushing Meadow for Britain's Jack Draper. He endured a severe bout of illness on court before losing out to world number 1 Yannick Sinner at the US Open. We look forward to England's Nations League clash with the Republic of Ireland in Dublin, and it's ton up for our Paralympians who reached 100 medals in Paris.
The weekend is here. Will we keep the summer-like warmth in the northwest? Will we keep the wet weather in the south? Or will it all change once again? I'll have the full forecast coming up very soon.
It's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is GB News Breakfast.
I quite like Liam Gallagher.
Right? Just in general, or for a particular reason,
no, just about, 'cause
or
he's been on Twitter, or whatever you call it these days.
X.
And he's been because he's been getting a lot of backlash over these ticket prices, and he sort of says, I've got loads of spare tickets, but they're really expensive.
Yeah,
100 grand, kneeling only. And all that, and he's just, and someone said, is your mum, Peggy, pleased about the reunion? He said, no, she's really fed up because she can't get a ticket. All this sort of, and I mean, I know this ticket pricing thing is a problem. I love the fact that he's just like...
Doesn't affect him, does it?
Lots of people have got annoyed on social media about his comments, but I mean, it's Liam being Liam. He's just taking the mickey. But the thing is, with Twitter / X, whatever it's called, it doesn't do sarcasm and humour, does it?
No, but they have a history of doing that as well. I remember they famously said in about '97, we're bigger than God. And then one of the other comments was, we don't need our fans. You know, I remember I was on shift with somebody at work, and they said, where would they be without their fans?
Bigger than God, that went well for the Beatles.
The Beatles, yeah, well, exactly. I think that's why they said it.
Interestingly, on the ticket prices, though, I remember back in '96, I went to Nebworth on the Sunday. Did either of you go to that?
Yeah, I was there. I saw you. You were the one at the back of the crowd giving a large...
I was topless, yeah. No, I wasn't really.
No, I blanked that bit out.
But the 50 quid for face value.
Yeah.
I got to King's Cross, and people were saying... They're only 25 quid at the venue. We got there. They were going at the station, Nebworth Station, for £6.
Yeah.
£6. Bit of a different story this time.
We've still got our original ticket.
Have you?
Yeah, and the husband is putting it online to sell now to Souvenir, and the bidding is already a lot more than we paid for it.
That's expected
you.
Well, not me, him. Fair play to the husband.
Tony Blackburn.
Yeah, but it's completely random this morning, Stephen.
Yeah, but I like Uncle Tony. I like Uncle Tony.
Yeah,
Is Dawn Neeson your real name? Or is Neeson your married name?
Neeson is my married name.
Right.
It's Irish name, isn't it?
So it is your actual name?
Yes.
Right. Because I'm all for that. I like using real names. Tony Blackburn, his radio bosses, at the start of his career, wanted him to call himself Mark Roman.
Why?
I don't know. Well, so it sounded better. Mark Roman.
That sounds... No.
So many people have different, actually, broadcasts under names that aren't theirs. I think it's...
Yeah, I know.
What would you be?
I wouldn't.
If you no. But assuming you were forced at gunpoint to choose a stage name, darling, what would it be?
Oh, I've no idea. I don't know.
I'd have a symbol.
gbnews.com/your say. What would you call him as a stage name?
Yeah.
Why not have a symbol like Prince?
Well, that isn't going to work. Good morning, I'm Symbol.
Just flash it up as a float.
Yeah, but
hold up a card. It's fine.
Radio.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah.
Then you'd have to say,
you can describe it.
I'd have to describe it.
Yeah. Anyway, look, enough of that. Aidan's not going anywhere though, because the England interim manager Lee Carsley has announced ahead of his first match that he's not going to sing the national anthem. It's that game against Ireland later.
Carsley, who has previously played 40 times for Checking Notes, Ireland, will be leading the England senior team for the first time on Saturday.
Well, he's decided not to sing God Save the King, claiming he struggles with it. Aidan, as you know, is here. Look, this is just such a bad look for an England manager. From a personal point of view, the one thing I really like at the national anthems in the big games is when you see... I always look, see how enthusiastically are the team and the manager singing the national anthem, because it matters.
It does matter, but, look, first of all, we said just then that he announced it. He was asked about it in a press conference. I'm not even sure he'd been giving it that much thought in the lead-up to it. Now, his explanation is that he was never one for national anthems when he played for the Republic of Ireland, back in the day. He played at the 2002 World Cup. He said it interrupted with his match ritual. Even when he was manager of the England under-21s, he struggled with the timings and how it interfered with his play.
Oh, it interfered with his play?
Well, yeah, it did. That's the most important thing, Stephen.
Yeah,
people care.
Only stood
doesn't
there.
matter. Yeah, all right, fine. But if he feels it's affecting his play, he's entitled to do that, whatever makes him feel good. Loads of players do that. Also, not all players sing it anyway. There were 3 or 4 players in England last summer who didn't play, didn't sing the national anthem. And then...
Well,
okay,
even the ones who couldn't remember all the words were sort of mumbling.
Well, that can be a problem. Jack Charlton, I'm not sure, when he was manager of the Republic of Ireland between 85 and 96, I don't recall him singing the national anthem back then, unless it was slightly different. The managers didn't necessarily line up with the team at the start. But Sven-Göran Eriksson, I don't recall him singing the national anthem either. He certainly didn't know the words.
I mean, Sven was Swedish. We had Fabio, who's Italian. But
Lee Carsley is Irish. In football terms, he's Irish.
He's born and bred in Birmingham. His parents.
He declared, in football terms, he is Irish, Dawn. He's declared for Ireland. It's perfectly possible. He wouldn't be allowed to play for England now as a footballer. That's the difference. It's different for managers than it is for players.
Yes, I know. Passport.
I think he's got dual.
Well, so he's got an English passport then.
His grandparents were Irish.
I'm sorry, if you're the manager of the England football team, where actually patriotism is everything, sing the blooming anthem.
But it's not. Patriotism isn't everything for the manager. You can be of any nationality and be a manager of a national football team. It doesn't. The rules are different where it applies to coaching and backroom staff and management compared to how it is for the players. You look at Emma Hayes going across to Paris or Lyon, wherever it was in the summer, with the Olympics. She was head of the US national football team and she won the gold, but she wouldn't claim to be American. She wouldn't be able to play if she was a player. So the rules are different when it's a manager compared to when you're a player.
Tell you what, though, if she wasn't singing God Bless America or whatever it is over there, there'd be...
literally.
There would be...
I don't know. I don't know if she did.
Outrage.
I don't know if she did in the summer. It's not a few weeks ago. I'm not sure.
The thing is, Lee Carsley is only an interim manager. It's a caretaker. He's got 6 games, right?
Yeah.
I would humbly suggest that if you actually want the big job, and I do believe he does, this isn't the best way about going
I
to
don't
get
believe... I think the FA will be very surprised this morning that it's reared its head in this way and it's caused a problem for them. Yeah, I do, because if it was that important, they would have discussed it with him beforehand.
Everyone
it's
getting in touch this morning...
It's the back page of every single newspaper today.
Debbie says he should sing or get rid. Corinne says, shocking he wouldn't sing the national anthem. If there's ever been a time to stand tall and proud, it's now. This is a terrible look. I agree. Brian Lee says, sack him. I think it's a disgrace. I think it's an absolute disgrace.
I don't. I think it's different for a manager. He's lining up against a team that he played for 40 times. And there have been problems for English players going back to Dublin in the past. And there could be today as well. I mean, Declan Rice is going to get a bit of a backlash for declaring for England because he actually played first-team matches for the Republic of Ireland. Jack Grealish may even get some stick as well if he gets involved in the game.
That's just over his hair, though. The thing is, I mean, you mentioned Jack Charlton earlier. Now, Jack Charlton was one of those players, right, who managed to keep both the English and the Irish
Yes, and that's because of his performance in the field of play. As a player for England and then as a manager for the Republic of Ireland.
But he managed not to alienate anybody.
Yes, he didn't, because he performed well. It was all about his performance, Dawn. It's not about whether he sang the national anthem or not. He wouldn't... I'll have to look on some old footage during the break, but I don't believe he sang the Irish national anthem when he was manager. Well, I'd be surprised.
Peter Banks puts it very well. He says the England manager has every right not to sing God Save the King. We have every right to sack him immediately.
OK, well, what about if you play for England but you're a Republican and you don't necessarily go along with imperialism like the King and the Queen and stuff like that? You're not going to sing it anyway, are you?
Well, then don't expect to get the job or keep the job.
Well, you have to be a Republican you have to be an imperialist, or you have to be somebody who supports the Queen, a monarchist, to play for England.
Well, no, we're not talking about the players. We're talking about the manager.
Well, but the rules are even weaker for the manager because he's not in the field of play. No, but that's the whole point. You can be an overseas national and represent England as the manager or the coach. You can't do that on the field of play.
Dave said if you're the manager of England and you want the job, you've got to be a patriot to England and you must sing the national anthem. Disgrace if he's the manager and just shows he's not patriotic enough. He shouldn't have the job.
Well, that's not the way the FA will see it. If he does well, if he gets the results, he'll get the job. They're not going to be interested in whether he sings the national anthem.
This is the way British people watching us and listening to us.
OK, well, fine, but there were players last summer before some of the Euro ties who weren't singing the national anthem. Maybe they didn't know the words, as you said, but
the thing is, if you're
that's even worse in some ways.
Not that I'd rather be watching Premiership football, to be honest, but all that aside, if you're an England fan, even if we win 10-0 tonight, you're still going to be going, but your heart isn't really in the England side,
That's not true. If they play well, they score a hat-trick in the field of play. How can you argue that they're not their heart's not in the field of play?
The manager.
It's different. It's different for the manager. In fact, they're held to a lower account, actually, because if you are an overseas national, you can manage any team of your... if they choose you.
Yeah.
So it's different. It's actually a higher threshold for the players.
Birmingham.
Pardon?
In Ireland. He was born and bred in Birmingham.
It's how you feel. You can be born anywhere. Terry Butcher was born in Singapore, but he still played for England.
Well... There you go, Aidan. We're going to leave it there, but I think you're outnumbered this morning.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's what GB News is all about.
By us and by all of our viewers.
Yeah, if you're on Team Aidan, by the way, very easy to get in touch. Yeah, gbnews.com/your say.
Right, let's have a
# Team Aidan.
Let's have a look at politics, sticking with the Ireland theme, actually, because the Prime Minister is heading to Ireland today for the first time since winning the election. He's meeting the Taoiseach, Simon Harris, for talks to reset UK-Irish relations.
Starmer is the first Prime Minister to visit our nearest neighbours for 5 years, so what does he hope to get out of it?
Let's talk to our political commentator, Peter Spencer, who joins us. Morning to you, Peter.
Good morning to you both. Top of the morning.
What does he mean by resetting relations?
Well, in immediate terms, what he wants is to improve trade links. But I think it's absolutely fascinating to have this conversation as a segue to the England manager conversation. And I noted that you guys were getting relatively aerated on this subject. And that is because there is a residual delicacy that 100 years ago the Irish attained their freedom by fighting the British. They then fought amongst themselves because of the fact they felt that some of them felt they'd been stitched up by the British, and then the island of Ireland got partitioned. And to this day there are sensitivities, shall we say, and which of course was the genesis of the Troubles of a few decades back, which Tony Blair managed to sort out mercifully or mostly via the Good Friday Agreement. So bring us up to date now. We look at what Rishi Sunak tried to do as Prime Minister with the Windsor Framework. Remember, there was a great deal of anxiety about trade between the mainland of England and the north of Ireland, and the question of whether there'd be a border somewhere in the Irish Sea, because Ireland was sort of half in and half out. Remember, the Republic is part of the European Union and the north of Ireland is part of the United Kingdom. And Sunak played a good hand with the Windsor Framework in that he sort of ironed that out. But at the same time, he played, from the point of view of many people in the north of Ireland, a bad hand in saying, let's draw a line on all the investigations into deaths during the Troubles. And Rishi Sunak, now we can move on to Keir Starmer. His Northern Ireland Secretary, Hilary Benn, has said, look, we're going to repeal that act, so we can now have more investigations into killings and tragedies of one kind or another during the Troubles. But essentially, what they want to do is to put their heads together and ensure that trade is lubricated, because there's an awful lot of it between Great Britain and the Republic of Ireland.
Peter, how much can they actually do, though? I mean, bearing in mind that the EU is involved in this as well. I mean, the two men can sit and have a nice cup of tea together and have a chit-chat, but looming over them both is the shadow of the EU, who's going to dictate what actually happens in the end in any case.
Yeah, I mean, it is a very, very complicated matter. And of course, Keir Starmer has been very much on a mission to reset relations between the United Kingdom and the European Union. Remember, he went to France and Germany a few days ago. That also was designed in very large measure to boost trade, hopefully boost inward investment, hopefully help him to deliver his promise, which is to expand the British economy and make us all richer. This is one part this is sort of one part of that jigsaw. Of course, it doesn't happen overnight, but remember that relations between the European Union and Great Britain were pretty frosty after Brexit. And at least if you get sort of good chemistry between the various players, that don't half help, Gov.
OK, Peter, thanks very much
Thank
indeed. 16 minutes past 6. Let's have a look at some of the other stories heading into the newsroom.
A man who took part in the riots in Rotherham last month has received the longest prison sentence handed out by judges to date following the widespread violence. Thomas Burley, 27, had been jailed for 9 years after pleading guilty to charge of arson with intent to endanger life, 1 count of violent disorder and possession of an offensive weapon. The judge called Burley's crimes some of the worst related to the riots after he admitted to setting fire to an asylum seeker hotel.
The Israeli Defence Force is facing questions after reports that soldiers opened fire in the occupied West Bank during a protest, killing a 26-year-old US-Turkish woman. Eseno Ezgiagi, an American citizen, was taking part in a protest against Jewish settlement expansion. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has called Aigi's death a tragic loss and said American officials are focused on establishing what happened.
The Royal Navy has named 31-year-old Lieutenant Rodri Layson as the serviceman killed in a night flying training exercise in the English Channel earlier this week. On Wednesday, a Merlin Mark IV helicopter crashed off the coast of Dorset with 3 crew members on board, including Lieutenant Layson. His family have described him as immeasurably loved by his parents, siblings, partner, friends and family.
Did you get to the Edinburgh tattoo?
I did.
Have you been?
I have been there. I think it's amazing, and I watched it on telly. And you think it's one of those things that you think, I'm not going to watch it, but I actually get sucked into it. It's great. I really loved it.
It's a long time since I've actually been and watched it. I was very young, but I'd love to go back.
We should go. Team outing.
But it's,
brace yourself, Edinburgh.
Yeah, honestly, it's just such a wonderful thing. Anyway, it's not just Edinburgh that has a tattoo, because the Celtic Nations have been celebrating their rich musical heritage. This time, it was Belfast's turn to shine.
A dress rehearsal for a night that will blend music, culture and dance. The Belfast International Tattoo is now underway. Helen Mark is the show's compere and just can't wait to get the event started.
Where I'm standing now is the place where everything is sort of fizzling away, just about to happen, right? So I've got bagpipes in the background. There are people in various states of, shall we say, dress or costume going up and down the corridors. And I actually find this bit quite exciting, because you're just waiting for that big performance to begin. It is a fantastic event. We bring people from all over the world to this. And they perform alongside our local musicians. I mean, how awesome is that?
A show can be over 2 years in the making, with the bands receiving their music up to a year in advance. An event director, Brian Wilson, gives us an idea of his timetable.
Basically, we're about 18 months ahead of this year's show. We're sort of planning 2026's show. 25's is pretty much set. So you have to work that far in event to get international guests that are maybe fundraising to come to Northern Ireland to do the tattoo, or getting sponsorship deals and stuff. So yeah, and there's more than just the Belfast tattoo going on in the world. There's all the other big tattoos, Edinburgh, Nova Scotia, Basel. So yeah, you just have to get in and find acts that suit our demographic, and it takes a while to do all that.
Dance is a major part of Scottish culture, and one of the finest troops is All Scot Australia.
Well, this is my granddaughter Lara, my granddaughter Sian, and my daughter-in-law Amy. And Amy heads up our junior development squad of All Scot Australia, and we work together with the All Scot Australia team.
Is that a hard thing, Amy, working with your mother-in-law?
Surprisingly, no.
Now, you started years ago yourself, didn't you? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my last few competitive years I danced under Cheryl, And then in the very first tattoo that Oscott Australia did, I was in that team. So I was actually pregnant with my son Patrick when I danced in that team. So I like to say all my kids have danced in the tattoo or a tattoo.
The tattoo will end tonight with a musical medley designed to thrill the crowds. Doogie Beattie, GB News, Belfast.
Brilliant. It's the bagpipes every time.
Inspiring.
Love bagpipes.
Yeah. In small doses, that has to be said, though. We were once in a hotel in Scotland for New Year, slightly hungover on New Year's Day, and the bagpipes started out first thing in the morning.
Oh.
And they went on and on.
Oh, no. I love it. I love it.
Maybe it was just the wrong time.
Bagpipes in the fog and mist in Scotland, that's what you need. That happened to us once.
Oh, yeah?
Lovely, on the banks of Loch Lomond.
Oh, that's very romantic.
It was. Well, it wasn't romantic. I was only about 8. But
OK, well, it sounds romantic.
Sounds romantic. Anyway, is it going to be fog and mist today? Oh, well, hopefully not. Here's Aidan.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Following a remarkably warm day yesterday, it is another very warm day in the northwest today. Cloudier elsewhere and further spells of showery rain in places. Although, having said that, actually it's mostly dry as we start things off this Saturday morning. A lot of cloud for England and Wales, especially in the east and the south where that cloud will be low. It'll be misty at times. Through the day, the cloud will produce a bit more rain, and that rain will be of a showery nature, but there'll be some heavy bursts. It'll feel warm wherever you are, but in Scotland, especially to the west, as well as Northern Ireland, northwest England, temperatures reaching the low to mid-20s, feeling very warm. In the widespread sunny skies we're expecting there. Perhaps some sunshine coming through for North Wales, East Anglia, for example, but it's at this stage in the day where we're likely to see increasingly heavy rain starting to push north into much of southern and central England and Wales. Misty low cloud for northeast England as well as eastern Scotland, but for central and western Scotland and Northern Ireland, a beautiful day to come. Once again, just like the last couple of days, widespread blue skies, temperatures reaching the mid-20s. A degree or so down on Friday's temperatures, but still summer-like warmth, finally following a disappointing summer. But as you can see, into Saturday night, the rain becomes more extensive across much of England and Wales, and it's heavy at times. Could be some thunderstorms out there. It's going to be a muggy night with temperatures staying up at 15 to 17 Celsius. Then that rainfall, well, it's going to be pushing north across the country. It could affect the Great North Run for a time through the middle part of the day. And it's going to be heading into the central belt, but fizzling out before it gets to western Scotland and Northern Ireland. So mostly a fine day here, and another warm day, not quite as warm, a bit more cloud about. Elsewhere, feeling cool under those outbreaks of showery rain.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
National anthem stuff's got you going this, honestly.
Oh, God.
Going this one. Though here's one that in support of Aidan's position.
Really?
It's the only one I've seen. Andy says, Aidan is correct. It would be utterly peculiar for a foreign manager to sing England's national anthem. But B has responded to that, saying he's not foreign, though. He's born in Birmingham.
Well, exactly. His grandparents were Irish. So, well, this is my favourite one. This is John. Good morning, John. We've got Oasis in the studio this morning. Stephen and Aidan, give them a pair of boxing gloves and let them get on with it.
Yeah.
And the one underneath that from Coral. Hi, Coral. Hope you're having a lovely day. Says, great to see Dawn on She's Good.
Janie, I love this one from Janie, says, it's only a song. Wouldn't kill him to sing it.
Which Jamie, though, got us talking about if we had to replace it, because people were getting offended, as people do these days, what could you replace it with?
I just thought that it should never be... I mean, you can't replace it. You should never replace it.
Jerusalem? People like Jerusalem.
Well, it's a bit odd. I do think Jerusalem is a bit odd.
We had that at a wedding.
Did you?
Yeah. That went well. Lots of people have it at their wedding.
Yeah, I mean, look, I...
What about always look on the bright side of life?
No.
I mean, I'm talking about England football. Not football's coming home. Never football's coming home. Please no. Oh my God, I never hear that song again. I won't be sad.
Just a couple. Sam says, "What on earth is wrong with Aidan McGee?"
How long have you got?
Yes, that's a long conversation. But Patrick says, "I have to agree with Aidan McGee this morning. He makes some very valid points regarding the issue." But there you go. They keep them coming through because I think it's a disgrace, frankly. The man wants to be England manager.
And this is an interim manager, 6 games in charge. This is not a flying start, is it? Made the back page of every national newspaper today. Not in a good way.
I mean, when Jeremy Corbyn wouldn't sing the national anthem, everyone went into uproar about it.
Yeah.
It's bad. It doesn't help my game preparation. I can stand there.
Just be. I mean, the thing is with this, just be honest, right? It's not about your game preparation. It's about the fact you're worried about upsetting the Irish versus English thing again. Jack Charlton did it back in the day. Second year. Anyway, should we cheer people up? Should we give them some money?
Oh, let's. It's our Great British Giveaway. It's the biggest cash prize we have ever given away.
Yeah, and it could be yours. It's very easy. It's like having... I've worked this out. Actually, someone clever did. £30,000, £3,000 tax-free in your bank account each month for an entire year. What could you do with that lot, eh? Well, here's how you can win it. It's very simple.
This is your chance to...
Up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. It's been almost 2 years since Queen Elizabeth passed away in her beloved Balmoral.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's 2 years.
2 years tomorrow. Shocking, isn't it?
Really, it's just flown past.
Well, the Prime Minister's paid tribute to her enduring legacy of service and devotion to our country, saying, and quite rightly, she will never be forgotten.
No. He announced a new national memorial in her honour, which will stand in St James's Park.
Yeah, quite right too. Let's talk to royal correspondent for The Express, Richard Palmer, who's in Hampshire for us this morning. Good to see you, Richard. I mean, look, quite right that this is done. It has to be done.
Yes, I think so. I mean, I suspect there are parts of the royal household who were rather that we were focusing on the new monarch and his first 2 years on the throne and where he goes from here. But it's right, I think, that the nation remembers such a remarkable monarch, somebody who dominated the world stage for more than 70 years, really. So I think St James's Park is a fantastic location, close to the Mall, the ceremonial route, close to Buckingham Palace, close to memorials to her parents as well. And I'm sure it'll become a major tourist attraction as well in central London.
Richard, the one question always asked is we have this fourth plinth in Trafalgar Square. Why can't I get the park link, but why can't we have a statue of the late Queen there?
Well, I mean, perhaps that was considered, but I mean, I think they're saying that there may be other memorials in other parts of the UK, but can you have two in central London? For me, this is a perfect location, and I don't know what will happen with the fourth plinth in Trafalgar Square, but I don't think that there's going to be a statue of Queen Elizabeth there now.
No, well, to be fair, though, it would only be one of four, wouldn't it?
Yes.
You know, so which I quite like the fact she's going to have something completely independent.
Yeah, but I mean, her dedication to duty, the amount of time she put into doing the job and doing it quite well.
Can we ask about... I'm intrigued by this, because it's in a lot of the papers this morning. So Ian McKellen talking about Queen Elizabeth, saying she was quite mad and rude.
Yes, it's really unusual. I mean, in fact, I can't really ever remember in 20 years of royal reporting coming across somebody who was willing to criticise the Queen in such an open way, somebody who'd actually met her. And been honoured by her. He seems to have been rude about everybody in this interview, rude about Prince Philip and Prince Harry as well, although he sort of said he's on the side of Prince Harry, but then goes on to say, well, he's probably too thick to do the job. I mean, there is outrage in some quarters of the national press this morning, and indeed, one royal commentator is suggesting that he ought to hand his honours back if he feels like that. I have to say, there's been a lot of talk about freedom of speech, the need for freedom of speech to be maintained in this country in the last couple of weeks. And so it does seem strange to be arguing on the one hand for freedom of speech and then saying nobody can criticise our late Queen. It doesn't ring true to me. I mean, it doesn't sound... I mean, when he describes her being rude and asking... His main reason seems to be that she said to him that, do people still go to the theatre? And he's taken offence at that. I suspect it was just a way of getting conversation going and talking about how theatre is adapting and still attracting crowds in the West End.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what he's saying seems to be unreasonable to me, but I would defend his right to say it. He is a national treasure, talking about another national treasure, isn't he?
So in the spirit of free speech, then, I will say that Ian McKellen is someone I've worked with, hosting events, and I have never in my life met anyone as rude and as arrogant as Ian McKellen. It was one of those don't meet your heroes things, because I came away from that night absolutely gutted that he was so rude.
What did he say to you?
Just generally unpleasant. I was really shocked. So the fact he's got the nerve to criticise anyone else, I find astounding.
He's also been rude about our Prince Harry, though, saying he isn't bright enough to survive royal life. But this comes as news that on Harry's 40th birthday, which I think is in a couple of weeks' time, he's set to inherit millions from his great-grandmother.
He's 40 on September the 15th, and I don't think this has been really confirmed on the record by palace sources or people in the family, but it's widely believed that he and other of the great-grandchildren, the Queen Mother's great-grandchildren, are going to inherit pretty large sums of money. I think he inherited a sum from her when he was 21, and then there was a second tranche when he was due to be 40. He's... there's going to be a lot of focus on him in the next few days, I suspect. We don't go very long without talking about him these days, do we? But Sir Ian's views on Harry may chime more with quite a few people in the British public. If you look at the polls, which continually seem to show that Harry's not very popular.
No, isn't that true? Richard, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Appreciate it. I tell you, in terms of, let's stay on the positive, this memorial, I mean, I presume it's going to be a statue of Her Majesty the Queen, maybe a big one. But have you been to the one in Oakham? It was the first one that was, honestly...
Along with the corgis.
Along with the corgis. It's fantastic.
You know what, I just...
Really love it. We stumbled across it a few weeks ago when we were up there, and it was just such a thrill to see. It's in Oakham.
Where's that?
It's like in sort of towards the Midlands.
Oh, right,
Where are we heading to? Is it Leicestershire? I can't think where we were going for the day, and we just came across it. It's just fantastic.
And it's a traditional statue
Proper
of the Queen, looking like the Queen, with the corgis playing around the plinth as well. That's lovely. I just hope this statue is traditional, none of that modern fancy stuff where it's like two triangles stuck on a square and it's like you go, oh, yeah, that's the Queen?
No, they've got to do a traditional...
Yeah. But I'm sorry, I think we should have one in Trafalgar Square.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Why we can't have it.
Some of the stuff we put on that plinth in Trafalgar Square, I mean, what? I mean...
No, I agree. I tell you what I would like to see, though, because this one and a lot of them are the Queen in her heyday.
Yes.
She was absolutely stunning. I would like to see one of the Queen. You remember that last sort of picture we saw of her? And looking very frail, but with that smile. And I'd like to see the Queen as we last saw her. You know, this sort of older but dignified lady who was still leading her country.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to see that.
You know what? I mean, I can't believe it's 2 years. I really can't. And I was surprised at how sad I felt when we lost her, because I'm not particularly a royalist. But I just think... the dedication to duty, I know you can say, oh, well, it's not hard work, is it, cutting a few ribbons, but I think that, you know, the dedication to duty, and it is a hard job. I mean, you're literally in a prison. You can't just go and think, right, I'm just going to nip down to the local theatre, as Sir Ian McKellen would have her do, you know, because you're the Queen. You can't do anything or say anything untoward. You've got to be nice to everybody all the time.
And it's, you know, you never get to retire.
No.
Do you? You never
die
get to
on the
retire.
job.
So there you go. I think... you know, all for celebrating her. Shocking what Ian McKellen
What do you
said,
think?
frankly.
Where should this statue be? In Trafalgar Square? And yeah. Well, let us know. gbnews.com/.
Yeah.
Or would you see a giant egg or something put up there? I don't know. Whatever.
All right, we're going to see what's making the papers in a couple of minutes for you with Emma Wolfe and Jonathan Liss. That's next.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Janis Joplin shot to fame in 1967, but after releasing 3 albums, she was dead 3 years later at the age of 27, having overdosed on heroin.
Yes, very, very brief life, but towering influence. People like Pink in the modern day have said that she is the influence. But she was around so briefly, I guess, burned very brightly and a very troubled soul. And what we've got is A Night with Janis Joplin, the musical. And I think a lot of the problems, it's been getting very mixed reviews, and I think the problem is with this subtitle, the musical. That does it no justice at all. Really? It's staggering, stunning in an audience. So what we have is A Night with. It's as if she's in concert. She's sitting on the stage, she's swinging from a bottle, and she's singing and giving us little memories thoughts on life?
I think I see where you're going, because some critics have said it's a fantastic individual performance that sits in an empty vessel of a show.
Yeah.
And you're saying that that's because the expectations of what the show is have been wrong.
Yes, I agree. And I do think that it's obviously a very loving show. There's very little reference to drugs. There's a bit of a throwaway comment. So we don't really look at the demons. What we do is we explore womanhood very powerfully, but also the blues.
How long do we have to see this?
This one it's on until September the 28th. It's on at the Peacock, which is just down by Aldwych in
Quite
London.
a small auditorium, actually.
No, it's a big auditorium. So the Peacock is it's a bit of a barn of a room. And again, I would say this show might be better in a slightly smaller venue, but I cannot recommend the performances highly enough.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained. I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, let's have a look at some of the front pages of the newspapers, and if Dawn stops gossiping in the break. Terrible, you've never known anything like it. Anyway, the Telegraph leads with the England manager Lee Carsley saying he won't sing the national anthem at tonight's friendly.
Meanwhile, the Times reports the rich are ready to quit Britain if Labour's upcoming budget raises tax thresholds.
The Express calls for Sir Ian McKellen to give back his knighthood after he criticised Queen Elizabeth.
The Daily Mirror even leads with ex-Top Gear presenter Chris Harris saying he warned the BBC someone would get hurt before Freddie Flintoff was badly injured in that horrific crash.
All right, let's go through some of those and some more with the writer and columnist Emma Wolfe and political commentator Jonathan Liss. Good morning to you both.
Morning.
Emma, let's start with the FT weekend, should we? Looking at a Whitehall revolt for Rachel Reeves.
Yeah, look, I mean, the Treasury are clearly in a big mess. They've discovered this massive black hole that they had no idea about before. And now it's the Whitehall kind of departments who are very, very angry. They've been asked for significant spending cuts. And the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, is under intense pressure from across Whitehall departments, saying that her demands for these departmental cuts are going too far. The Institute of Fiscal Studies is saying that some areas, sort of more sensitive areas such as local government, prisons, courts, further education, are very vulnerable, and that she'll need to raise spending by 10 to 20 billion just to kind of maintain real terms sort of parity. We've got, obviously, October 30th, we've got the first Labour budget in nearly 15 years, and very, very painful choices are expected to be made. We've seen lots of painful choices already. We've seen decisions which have raised lots of eyebrows about sort of cutting winter fuel payments for people, for many pensioners. And it's all about now whether these tax rises are going to be as painful as everyone is expecting, and where the money's going to come from, basically.
Jonathan?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's an effective summary of the article. I have said...
Thank you.
I kind of... You didn't really make it a point I could sort of argue with, in a sense. Clearly, the government is going to have to decide where...
OK, Labour are making terrible choices about the economy.
OK, fine. We can argue about that. I don't think that's actually true. I think that I agreed with you that during the election campaign, Labour should have been more honest, and all parties should have been more honest about the dire state of not only the country's finances, but sort of the national infrastructure as well. Clearly, you can't resolve that with reform alone. You need hard cash. And Rachel Reeves boxed herself in unnecessarily by saying that she wouldn't raise national insurance, VAT, or income tax. I think that was a mistake. She should have allowed herself more options. Governments have different options for raising money. They can raise taxes, they can increase borrowing, and they can go to a central bank if they have one, and that bank can sort of print its own money. We don't call it that because it scares people, but banks do it all the time. We're in charge. We're in charge of our money, and obviously we grow the economy, and that raises revenue as well.
Well, we need to grow the economy because we.
Of course, it's not either or. It's both.
Or we can cut things. We can cut things like foreign aid, for example.
But part of the problem we're facing now, and part of the problem with inflation, was the fact we'd printed a load of money during lockdown.
No, I don't think that was a cause of inflation. I haven't read any serious economists saying that it was that sort of quantitative easing that caused that rise in inflation. Particularly, obviously, there were lots of factors that led to inflation. But fundamentally, as long as you have the confidence of the markets, you can borrow a lot of money. So actually, what we always forget about the Liz Truss mini budget, and I sort of hate to invoke her name on this channel yet again, but it wasn't the biggest source of borrowing that Liz Truss did actually didn't spook the markets at all. That was to spend a lot of money on capping energy bills for the entire country and giving everyone, I think, £500 was it. The markets didn't budge about that because they saw it was an acceptable use of money. And so if the government is showing that it can raise money for infrastructure and investment, then it's OK.
Jonathan, economic confidence has fallen from +7 in July to -12 now in the first 6 weeks of a Labour government. And when you talk about choices and how we what do we do? Do we cut? Do we raise taxes? All of that. What about things like, for example, 11 billion that we're spending on foreign aid? What would you say to that? Because a lot of people are thinking, well, hang on a minute, if we can't afford to keep pensioners warm, if we can't afford to pay for schooling and put more money into the NHS, why do we have 11 billion, for example,
well, Emma,
to send abroad?
Well, I mean, are you arguing against no foreign aid or just a reduction? No, so I'm asking you what you...
11 billion.
OK, fine. So, but as you all know, it's not a figure per se, it's a percentage. So for many, many years...
No, that is a figure. 11 billion is a figure.
Yes, but that will vary depending on GDP.
It's a lot of money.
Every single year it will go down. So it's gone down from 0.7% to 0.5%.
That's nearly half the black hole, actually. I hadn't realised that.
Well, look, I think that we absolutely can afford... In fact, it's not only about whether we can afford to, it's about whether we can afford not to. It's not something, it's a moral thing to do, but it's also very much in Britain's national interest. People talk about soft power.
And a lot of people would agree with that, but then it's where do you draw the line? You say it's the moral thing to do. This isn't the moral thing to keep pensioners warm.
Well, it's not either or. Look,
well, it is
either or.
Well, I don't know. No, I don't think it is either or. And for the record, I didn't think that they handled that announcement very well. If you're going to argue that the richest pensioners who have sort of millions of pounds in assets shouldn't be given a state handout, that's fine, but then you could do it much easily. For example, say, if you're paying the top rate of tax, then you shouldn't be...
It's not about the announcement, it's about the decision. And I'm sorry, charity begins at home, and we all know that we want to care for our elderly and our vulnerable first, absolutely. But 11 billion, a lot of that is being spent on countries that A, don't need it, and B, we all know that at the end of the year they go, oh, we've got all this foreign aid, but when you say things like, oh, it's not, can we afford not to? That's not really an answer to the actual
Well, look, I mean, there are all kinds of... I agree with you that the money's not always spent wisely. The money needs to be allocated in a much more strategic way often, and it needs to target the people who need it the most. I agree that there are some countries and some projects that probably don't need UK public money, but that doesn't mean that the whole sort of budget is a kind of a frickery or waste. No, but I think that it's really important Britain does foreign aid incredibly well. One of the biggest mistakes of the previous government was getting rid of DFID, which was, world-renowned and acclaimed, and that was a mistake. And now it's really incumbent upon the government to show that it can add value around the world. And
should we talk about some... Sorry, we could talk about this for hours.
Sorry.
Should we talk about another area the government are getting money from to fill that black hole? Emma, this is the front page of The Telegraph about private school fees again.
Yeah, really interesting story, actually. Buckinghamshire Council, a local parent who had her child in a private school, wrote to the council, or she applied for a couple of places at local state schools because she can't afford to pay the uplift in VAT. 20% VAT is going to be added from January the 1st, 2025. So it's coming down the line. This is Labour's plan. This woman wrote to she applied for a couple of schools and was told by Buckinghamshire Council, sorry, you're going to need to prove... She was turned down by 2 of the state schools she applied to and was told you need to prove financial, documentation to prove that you can't afford to carry on going to private school. And she was completely kind of taken aback by this because, you know...
You would be a bit flummoxed, wouldn't you? Hold on
your
a minute.
basic right is to be able to apply for your child to go to state school. Then if you can afford it, then you have the choice to go to... So there's a lot of worry. I mean, there's been concern anyway that local councils are going to be under pressure with parents being priced out. And things like, you know, at 1,200 extra, it might not sound like a lot, but when you're absolutely at the limit of what you can afford and you've decided you want to do private school, but when you're talking about 1,000 here, 1,000 there, and often a lot more than that, parents are being priced out by this. I should say Buckinghamshire Council have sort of apologised. They've said this isn't a blanket policy and that maybe it was insensitively worded and all of that. But it highlights, I think, the pressure and the sort of unintended consequences of this policy, which are lots of private school pupils are now going to be putting more pressure on state schools.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't... I mean, whether you agree with the policy or not, let's try and step away from that argument because we've had it so many times. There's got to be provision made for more places in our ordinary schools.
Well, look, I mean, this is an age-old problem that councils have to kind of guess, you know, many years in advance how many places they'll need. It depends on sort of birth rates, about migration patterns, all kinds of things. And these are really complicated issues. And often we do hear of stories where children can't get a local school place or the school across the road can't accommodate them or whatever. And so these are obviously important. And we don't know at this point how many children will be affected by this new policy. I think that the general consensus is that it won't be as many as newspapers like The Telegraph have suggested in recent months.
Estimated to be about 40,000, isn't it?
I mean, you have different figures. We'll obviously find out in due course how many children have actually been left. And obviously there are maybe many reasons for that, by the way, not just this policy. You know, there is a cost of living crisis which affects everybody. So as Emma said, you know, this was not an appropriate thing for the council to have done. If this parent did need to withdraw her children from private schools, then the council would have had to find places in the normal way.
Look, just comparatively quickly, Jonathan, also in the Telegraph, what do you make of Lee Carsley not singing the national anthem tonight?
I think it's completely unimportant, to be honest. I kind of... Fab did what was his name? Was it Fabio Capello? Was he the former? He didn't sing it either.
He's Italian.
He didn't know the words.
But he's Italian.
Right. I honestly, it's not an important issue for me. I think that we also have to. I think that we also have to be a little bit sensitive that when someone has represented Ireland, I think it's not necessarily appropriate to ask them to sing "God Save the King" for obvious reasons.
Because
he's the England manager.
He's the England manager, and he's wanting England to beat Ireland in this game.
Well, I think that if you really want to talk about this, I actually think that you could have a national anthem that's a little bit more inclusive of different reasons, doesn't just talk about one person. And I say this as a monarchist, by the way, but I actually think that when you have Jerusalem, for example, that would be a more appropriate.
All right, we've got to leave it there. Emma, Jonathan, thank you.
Soon.
Here's the weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Following a remarkably warm day yesterday, it is another very warm day in the northwest today. Cloudier elsewhere and further spells of showery rain in places. Although, having said that, actually, it's mostly dry as we start things off this Saturday morning. A lot of cloud for England and Wales, especially in the east and the south, where that cloud will be low. It'll be misty at times. Through the day, the cloud will produce a bit more rain, and that rain will be of a showery nature, but there'll be some heavy bursts. It'll feel warm wherever you are, but in Scotland, especially to the west, as well as Northern Ireland, northwest England, temperatures reaching the low to mid-20s, feeling very warm in the widespread sunny skies we're expecting there. Perhaps some sunshine coming through for North Wales, East Anglia, for example, but it's at this stage in the day where we're likely to see increasingly heavy rain starting to push north into much of southern and central England and Wales. Misty low cloud for northeast England as well as eastern Scotland, but for central and western Scotland and Northern Ireland, a beautiful day to come. Once again, just like the last couple of days, widespread blue skies, temperatures reaching the mid-20s. A degree or so down on Friday's temperatures, but still summer-like warmth finally following a disappointing summer. But as you can see, Into Saturday night, the rain becomes more extensive across much of England and Wales, and it's heavy at times. Could be some thunderstorms out there. It's going to be a muggy night with temperatures staying up at 15 to 17 Celsius. Then that rainfall, well, it's going to be pushing north across the country. It could affect the Great North Run for a time through the middle part of the day. And it's going to be heading into the central belt, but fizzling out before it gets to Western Scotland and Northern Ireland. So mostly a fine day here, and another warm day, not quite as warm, a bit more cloud about. Elsewhere, feeling cool under those outbreaks of showery rain.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained. I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Sunday nights on GB News. From 6, Neil Oliver. At 7, it's Free Speech Nation with Andrew Doyle. At 9, Mark Dolan. And at 11, get set for the week ahead with headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight. GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark Meets and My Take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Good morning to you. Outcry as England's manager rules out singing the national anthem at tonight's game against Ireland.
Lee Carsley risks furious backlash as he takes charge of the England team for the first time.
He says he struggles with singing God Save the King after playing for Ireland about 40 times.
On the same day, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer meets Irish Taoiseach Simon Harris as he looks to repair post-Brexit relations.
Ahead of the 2-year anniversary of the Queen's death tomorrow, the government has announced a memorial in her honour.
And Oasis may have angered fans with their ticket prices, but not enough to stop the duo from returning to the top of the charts for the first time in a decade.
Also coming up for you, a debate has been sparked after I've got to say, a very large man struggled to fit onto a plane seat. This morning we're asking if it's time to charge bigger passengers more money.
And Britain's annual Viking Festival gets underway to mark the anniversary of the Battle of Largs.
There was heartache at Flushing Meadow for Britain's Jack Draper. He endured a severe bout of illness on court before losing out to world number one Yannick Sinner at the US Open. Elsewhere, we look ahead to England's Nations League clash with the Republic of Ireland in Dublin, and it's ton up for our Paralympians who reached 100 medals in Paris.
The weekend is here. Will we keep the summer-like warmth in the northwest? Will we keep the wet weather in the south? Or will it all change once again? I'll have the full forecast coming up very soon.
Just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
Good morning, and I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Just an interesting point, which I've got to raise. I don't want to criticise anyone, but I'm going to criticise somebody. Someone's been in touch with a very strange name, but says, get Liss, Jonathan Liss is doing the papers, this one, and get Liss and his opinions off the Free Speech channel. Well, it's a free speech channel, and that means that you have to listen sometimes to opinions you don't agree with. Because otherwise, how do we come to a conclusion? We can't just listen to people we agree with, because that way we don't get anywhere. We're just in like a bubble, an echo chamber. You need to hear other views so you can sort of modify your own or maybe solidify your own views. So to say, oh, don't have someone like... I mean, clearly he's very left. I've not met him before today. You have, haven't you?
Yeah, he's very lovely, but...
But nice fella,
look,
but...
We're all entitled to opinions.
Well, this is it.
All opinions should be expressed.
And you've got to be able... You've got to have the right... I mean, part of the reason we were set up was because opinions were just anywhere to the right of centre weren't getting any airtime. We say, well, they've got to be heard.
Yeah.
Well, that means you've got to hear all views.
A cross-section.
You don't, as a debater, you don't sharpen up your own opinion unless you've heard what the other side has to say. Do you?
Yeah.
No,
The point of debate is all about debate, not hate. The point of having a debate is you listen to other people's opinions, you think, actually, that's a really good point. But you don't have to hate one another while you're doing so.
Well, this is the essence of politics as well. You hear all sides of the debate before arriving at what you believe might be a conclusion.
Yeah, and just a reminder that if you ever get to spend any time in the House of Commons, what you will find is that all these MPs who sit on opposite sides of the chamber and fight when there's a camera or a microphone on them, actually then all go to the bars and have a really good time.
Yeah.
And they're actually quite good mates.
Yeah.
Actually.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Anyway, look, talking about debates, and we're going to have a bit of a bust-up with Aidan, I think, in a minute.
Hold on a minute. Where's this one? Blah, blah, blah. This is from John. Morning, John. Aidan, you've had half hour to cheer up. Have you achieved it?
Yeah, we'll find out. And this is all because England's manager, interim manager, but, you know, interim managers often become permanent managers, Lee Carsley. First match tonight against the Republic of Ireland. So what's he said? He said he's not going to sing the national anthem. He finds it a little bit difficult and comfortable, Dawn.
Well, he did get 40 caps playing for Ireland, but he was born and bred in Birmingham.
But no one's actually asked him whether he considers himself to be English or Irish anyway. I mean, that should have been more of the question yesterday in the press conference, in addition to what he was already asked. I mean, I think he was caught on the hop. I don't think the FA will be expecting the backlash. I don't think it would have been in their line of vision to expect it to be on the front page of papers this morning. I just can't believe it's been blown up the way it is. I mean, there's Jeff Powell in the Daily Mail saying that he should be sacked before the game.
Splash in the Telegraph.
Yes, I know, yeah.
Front page news.
Well, he shouldn't be sacked before the game. I think that's a bit... that's a bit too much. But, I mean, Anita says the interim manager can refuse to sing, but he will have to bear the anger of supporters and face not getting the job permanently.
But what about the fans in Dublin tonight at the Aviva Stadium? Are they going to be... You know, he represented them at a World Cup 40 times, and he played in a very good period. He's a popular player, and he could get, he could get backlash in that stadium as well.
Does Lee Carsley struggle to take his wages if he struggles to sing the national anthem?
Yeah, but it's not part of the job. He will be judged, just like anybody else who plays for England or has managed England or coaches or even works for the FA, they'll be judged on their performance, as we all are in our jobs. If he starts winning games, if he manages to take England over the line that Gareth Southgate couldn't quite fulfil in his 8 years in charge, then there will be no question about whether he sang the national anthem on a cold Saturday night in Dublin.
I think the damage is done. I think this will stay with him.
Possibly. I just think that's very unfair.
Do you think, actually, all this aside, Aidan is actually the best man for the job in any case?
Look, it's his to lose. It has to be, Dawn, because there's no interim manager who's ever claimed to have not wanted a job. I've not known many, actually. In fact, no, do you know what? Lee Carsey did that when he was at Brentford about 9 years ago. He actually said he didn't want the job, and he didn't get the job at Brentford, even though he'd done quite well. So he must have changed his perspective now. But, look, it's a great job to have. He's got some wonderful players. Tonight's game is not hugely significant in terms of what it will produce on the pitch. It's a Nations League game. It's very much the poor relation in when compared to the Euros and the World Cup. But, look, if he wins games, as I said to you, that's the most important thing, and winning games will keep him in that job if he wants it. If he doesn't, he'll be out on his ear.
I think he's blown it.
Even if he wins games?
No, even if he wins games. I think he's blown it because you need public support. And actually, importantly, you need press support. The press know what their readers like, and their readers don't like this.
If he wins games, it will disappear in a puff of smoke. I can promise you, I've seen it so many times before, this kind of issue.
I wonder. If it isn't him, lots of people are suggesting maybe Eddie Howe should get the job.
Yeah, possibly, but he's at Newcastle right now. It involves paying a degree of compensation. I think the FA quite like the idea, as Spain did last summer with great success, of bringing somebody through who's part of the system. He's coached under-21 players. He's going to blood some under-21 players in the side tonight. So he'll be the continuity candidate, but he's also promised a bolder style of football, and that's what we need. Stephen said a few times, with an untrained eye, you don't watch a lot of football, but you looked at the performance in the Euros and you said, look, why do we get to the edge of the box and not know what to do? That's exactly England's problem in a nutshell.
Did you say that?
I did.
Yes, he did.
Wow.
He did, and it was good analysis. It was. You don't, but what I'm saying is it's obvious to people who don't necessarily follow the game inside out every single day. Now, the issue here is that was the problem with England. They couldn't get it over the line because they just didn't have that bit of cutting edge in the final. I'd say the final quarter, never mind the final third. And if Kazi can deliver that, there'll be no talk of national anthems. Let me absolutely assure you of that.
In any case, aren't they?
Don't know. We'll see.
If you don't win,
controversial.
If you don't win,
there's an interesting subplot.
England, Aidan, aren't you?
Well, I don't know. I'm a bit of both, really. I've got passports of both countries.
How have you?
Therein lies the rub, methinks.
It could well be there. Anyway, Aidan, thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you, Aidan.
Thanks for nothing.
Yeah, thanks for nothing. Dear me, is it a bit too much of a basic argument? I just sort of think it's a real point for me when you see the national anthem being sung. It's about having that.
Some players don't sing it.
Oh, come on!
They don't. Look, I can get you the footage from last summer. There were a couple of players in the lineup who were not singing the national anthem.
Well, should be.
No one, even though England were playing badly, no one said a thing.
But here's the manager. You lead, and look, you lead from the top. You set an example, and lots of people.
But the rules are different for a manager, Dawn. The rules are different.
Is he still here?
Yeah, still.
All right, I'll go. No, I'm not wanted.
I love you to bits. But a lot of people are saying that one of the reasons I really like GB News is you play the national anthem at the start every morning.
Yeah.
And I think that is actually a really good point. It's uplifting.
Groff says, I'd rather have less and be worse off than take on people that don't care about England.
Yeah.
It's interesting. In 1995, there was a riot in the crowd, and I believe it was so incendiary, the English national anthem, or the British national anthem, the English God Save the Queen at the time, it was actually cut before the kick-off because it was that dangerous. So there is sensitivity around the home crowd tonight as well. Don't forget that Declan Rice is going back there, having played for Ireland.
Yeah.
Jack Grealish snubbed the Republic of Ireland as well. There are 2 or 3 other players in the squad. Harry Maguire and Harry Kane also have Irish connections as well.
Well, yeah, but they're playing for England. There you go.
You still need to get a
I'm going
to
watch it tonight. I'm going to watch it and I shall stand up in my lounge.
Will you?
And sing.
You should do it whilst on a Zoom call with Aidan.
Yeah. Are you going to wear your Union Jack boxer shorts or your George Cross boxer shorts?
I've got a Union Jack bow tie. I might wear that.
Just your bow tie. Just your bow tie and your boxer shorts.
Nothing else. Now, let's look at actual politics, should we now, Dawn? And the Prime Minister is actually going to Ireland today. He's meeting the Taoiseach, Simon Harris.
Yeah, the pair will discuss resetting UK-Irish relations as Starmer becomes the first Prime Minister to visit our nearest neighbours for 5 years.
So what exactly does Starmer actually want to get out of it? Let's talk to political commentator Piers Pottinger, who's here. I mean, it's a very good point, isn't it? What does he think he can achieve?
Well, it's a bit of showbaiting from Starmer, really. I mean, he's been to Germany already to reset the relationship. Basically, he's going around with a begging bowl. Of course, we all know he's a committed Remainer and would like us still to be in the EU. Because he's doing so badly at home, I've never known a Prime Minister to be, well, apart from perhaps Liz Truss, do so badly in such a short space of time. He's facing a very difficult week next week in Parliament because he's got a debate on the removal of the winter fuel allowance for pensioners. He also is introducing the Renters' Rights Act to the horror of landlords across the country. And also next week we've got the next round of the Conservative leadership. But in Ireland, I mean, Ireland have been very vocal against Britain when we were a member of the EU, and were very, very difficult about our leaving. Quite ridiculously, given the amount of trade we do with Ireland. And I hope Starmer will be singing the national anthem tonight if he's there for the game. But I doubt he will be at the game. I don't know. But if he is, I hope he sings it. I mean, what can he get more out of Ireland? I mean, we actually give more to Ireland under the original Anglo-Irish trading agreement. We basically keep Ireland afloat, literally. And people often forget just how much money we hand over to Ireland to support them. And in terms of their ability to travel freely between Ireland and here, they have all kinds of special rights, even though they're an EU country, who are now in November going to make travel for British people in Europe very difficult, having to be fingerprinted and photographed going in and coming out. They're being as difficult as possible. One would hope Starmer is going to say, come on, guys, help us out in Europe, and let's be a bit more sensible about freedom of movement.
Talking of freedom of movement, immigration is going to be another big talking point between the two men, isn't it? Because we've seen a lot of unrest on the island of Ireland in general, but certainly in Dublin recently, with working class communities protesting about large groups of migrants being moved into their areas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Irish economy is very fragile, and they are also, the Irish are not necessarily, although they're all portrayed as wonderfully welcoming, charming people, many of them are, but quite a lot of them aren't. And particularly if you're English, you can still find it being very uncomfortable being in Dublin, for example. The last time I was there, I found the number of snide remarks from people the whole time, even though I'm not actually English, I'm Scottish. And when I said that, the difference was amazing. It's quite interesting. Really? There's still an awful lot of underlying hostility. And I do actually think, going back to this football game tonight, there'll be an awful lot of booing from the Irish when we have the national anthem. And that would be, in my view, even more of a reason to sing it loudly. And as for the manager making a case for this, it's absolutely outrageous, in my view. He should not have said what he said. He should be focusing on the match. I mean, it's irrelevant whether he wants to sing or not. He should be encouraging all the players to sing at the top of their voices. And a good example of this is when the All Blacks in rugby do the famous haka. It's a big morale booster for them. It gives them an absolute uplift emotionally at the beginning of the game, as well as all the spectators. And as you said, Dawn, the national anthem is a stirring thing. It's something that we should all be proud of and get behind. And if you can't do that as the England manager, you shouldn't be the manager.
Well, I think a lot of our viewers would agree with you. Can I ask about, because Tom Mullen's been in touch, because we've got the budget obviously hurtling our way very shortly, and we already know it's going to be very painful. So the PM's told us. Tom says, why is nobody talking about the non-dom tax situation? Because Labour said before the election he was going to pay for everything. Yes. Which actually is true.
They mentioned it all the time, didn't they? Yeah, that's the point.
They did mention it, yes. And there was that very funny interview in the street where someone said, I voted Labour, but now they're going to tax condoms. And his wife had to point out it was non-doms. That was one of my highlights of the election campaign. But Yeah, I mean, the non-DOMs are leaving in their thousands, if we believe particularly the story in the Times this morning, and I'm not surprised. It's also very short-term and very stupid and very socialist to think that driving wealth out of the country is going to help poorer people. The two do not work like that. And it is another example of this government's disastrous start to their hopefully short period in office.
Well, what are we going to get in terms of... I know this is going to be a difficult budget, and clearly, you know how politics works. They're getting the hard stuff done now, so it's going to be all roses by the time it comes up to the next election.
I think it's just going to get worse.
Well, obviously that's got to be the plan.
But they hope so.
But this has got to be based on growth.
Well,
how do they do all of this hard stuff without it affecting?
Exactly. There isn't anything in the budget or anything in what they've been talking about that's going to stimulate growth. For example, a cut in corporation tax would be a great stimulus, but instead they're focused on more public finances rather than the economy, and those are two different things. And they so far have been focusing on handing out absurdly generous pay rises to their trade union paymasters in public services. The reason that trade unions now are focused on public services is there's very little industry in this country, and now there are very few industrial trade unions. They're nearly all to do with public services. And that is why the government's focusing on that. But now the trade unions have said they are unhappy with the winter fuel payment and have made a public statement about this. Now, there you have the quandary that Rachel Reeves has found herself in. She's being dictated to by the trade unions, not just on matters pertaining to their own members, but to the whole country. Now, are they governing the country, or is the Labour Party governing the country?
That's such an interesting point, Piers, the fact that the unions have come out and said the winter fuel payment thing is not a good idea.
They're trying to dictate. They're trying to dictate the agenda.
Wow.
Very interesting.
It was ever thus with the trade union.
It was, yeah, absolutely. It's back to the 70s.
It's good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah.
All right, it's 18 minutes past 7. Let's have a look at some of the other stories heading into the newsroom.
A man who took part in the riots in Rotherham last month has received the longest prison sentence handed out by judges to date following the widespread violence. Thomas Burney, he's 27, has been jailed for 9 years after pleading guilty to charge of arson with intent to endanger life, 1 count of violent disorder and possession of an offensive weapon.
The Israeli Defence Force is facing questions after reports that soldiers opened fire in the West Bank during a protest killing a 26-year-old US-Turkish woman. Eseno Ezgiagi, an American citizen, was taking part in a protest against Jewish settlement expansion. The US Secretary of State has called Agi's death a tragic loss and said American officials are focused on establishing what happened.
Meanwhile, the Royal Navy has named 31-year-old Lieutenant Rodri Layson as the serviceman killed in a night flying training exercise in the English Channel earlier this week. On Wednesday, a Merlin Mark IV helicopter crashed off the coast of Dorset with 3 crew members on board, including Lieutenant Layson. His family have described him as immeasurably loved by his parents, siblings, partner and friends.
All right, it is 19 minutes past 7. Let's see what the weather's going to do for you today with Aidan McGibbon.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Following a remarkably warm day yesterday, it is another very warm day in the northwest today. Cloudier elsewhere and further spells of showery rain in places. Although, having said that, actually it's mostly dry as we start things off this Saturday morning. A lot of cloud for England and Wales, especially in the east and the south, where that cloud will be low. It'll be misty at times. Through the day, the cloud will produce a bit more rain, and that rain will be of a showery nature, but there'll be some heavy bursts. It'll feel warm wherever you are, but in Scotland, especially to the west, as well as Northern Ireland, northwest England, temperatures reaching the low to mid-20s, feeling very warm in the widespread sunny skies we're expecting there. Perhaps some sunshine coming through for North Wales, East Anglia, for example, but it's at this stage in the day where we're likely to see increasingly heavy rain. starting to push north into much of southern and central England and Wales. Misty low cloud for northeast England as well as eastern Scotland, but for central and western Scotland and Northern Ireland, a beautiful day to come. Once again, just like the last couple of days, widespread blue skies, temperatures reaching the mid-20s. A degree or so down on Friday's temperatures, but still summer-like warmth, finally following a disappointing summer. But as you can see, into Saturday night, the rain becomes more extensive across much of England and Wales, and it's heavy at times. Could be some thunderstorms out there. It's going to be a muggy night with temperatures staying up at 15 to 17 Celsius. Then that rainfall, well, it's going to be pushing north across the country. It could affect the Great North Run for a time through the middle part of the day. And it's going to be heading into the central belt, but fizzling out before it gets to western Scotland and Northern Ireland. So mostly a fine day here, and another warm day, not quite as warm, a bit more cloud about. Elsewhere, feeling cool under those outbreaks of showery rain.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Money, money, money.
Must be fun. I can't sing. I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry.
Fancy 36 grand, tax-free?
Yeah, please.
Well, you can't. But
No.
you can. It's our biggest ever prize in our Great British giveaway.
It is.
Is that what we call it?
Yeah, we do. And
I've
it works
forgotten.
out at how, yeah, the Great British Bill. And it's the biggest prize. And you can win, what, £3,000 a month tax-free in your bank account for a year.
Well, that's what it's... You get it in a lump sum, but that's what it's
But
equivalent
it's
to.
the equivalent to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Which
great.
is, I don't know what that works out in terms of what you would have to earn to get £3 grand a month tax-free. 36 grand, it's about 50 grand or
Yeah.
something, or like a salary of 50, 55 grand or something like that.
Pretty good.
So it's fantastic. Anyway, if you want to make it yours, here's how.
You could be the next Great British Giveaway winner with a whopping £36,000 in tax-free cash in your bank account. Imagine getting the winning phone call for that.
You never expect to win.
It was unexpected, of course. I only put in one little entry.
I blocked the phone number to start with.
I say get your entries in. If I can win it, anybody can win it.
For another chance to win £36,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63232.
Pay tax, I get it, but if there are ways where legally you don't need to pay tax, like putting it in a pension, or ISAs, where your money grows,
Yeah.
and then you don't pay any tax.
We're not allowed to enter the giveaway, but everyone out there can. Come on, it's going to be good.
Put it all in
Yeah.
devices. Anyway, look, still to come, we're going to be debating plus-sized passengers. Should they really now be paying extra for plane seats?
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
It's a very difficult issue, this, right? As far as we know, the boxer with male chromosomes was born with female genitalia.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually quite simple. You know, sex in humans is binary and immutable because we are mammals. And there is a minority of people who have disorders of sexual development, and that can affect a person's reproductive organs. But these people are male or female. And yesterday, what we witnessed was basically just glorified male violence against women and girls. The difference is, I mean, that happens every day all over the world. And the difference is that in every other circumstance, we consider beating up women to be wrong, but it was deemed acceptable by those at the IOC because they're claiming that it's sport, but it's not. It's violence and it's wrong.
Peter, Lottie's right, isn't she, that we've been talking a lot recently about violence against women and girls, and regardless of whether this person is intersex or transgender, they have male chromosomes. That means they have a very, very distinct biological advantage that could actually be fatal to a female athlete competing against them.
Well, of course, sport does need to be fair, and we do need to examine this case very thoroughly. There are reports that the boxer, Iman Khalif, was born a biological woman. She is not transgender. She is not non-binary. She is not intersex. She may have elevated levels of testosterone, but that's entirely natural. It's beyond her control. It's the way she was born. And that is why the International Olympic Committee has said that she falls within the rules.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, a furious online debate has been sparked after, well, let's just say a rather large man, I mean, he really was big, was snapped trying to fit into his seat on the plane.
It's led to some to ask whether obese passengers should have to pay for extra plane seats so they don't inconvenience others.
Some say, though, that's cruel. So should plus-size passengers pay extra for plane seats? Let's talk to former presenter of Fat Families, Steve Miller, who's in Stratford-upon-Avon, and the director of All About Obesity, Sarah LeBrock, who's in beautiful Harrogate. Good to see you both this morning. Sarah, what do you think?
Well, we've had this debate before with Steve and I, to be fair, and I think it's one of those things where planes are just not fit for purpose anymore. So people's bodies have been growing over the years. We know this, the obesity rates are increasing, etc. But what's happening to planes is the seats are decreasing in size. So they're just not fit for purpose and not fit for the population. So I think it's just one of these things where we need to be more empathetic to people, that they're trying to fit into an environment that isn't shaped for them at all. So I think we do need to kind of say, well, what's right here? Is it the person not being able to fit in the seat, or is it the seat not being fit for purpose for the person? And I think we need to really, look at things from that perspective as well. Instead of thinking the person's doing something wrong, how about the environment might be doing something wrong?
Steve?
Well, it's not about blaming, but the message you can't put out, in my opinion, is that it's okay to be obese. And don't worry about it. You see, what I'm saying here is free plane seats. If you're offering free plane seats, an extra seat, that's going to normalise obesity. And the thing that we're not good at in the UK right now is taking personal responsibility, and that includes our weight. The other thing, of course, is it's just impractical to suggest that the airlines are going to extend the seats and make them bigger, because what will happen is the costs of flying will go through the roof. So it's just impractical. So actually, people in the UK need a bit of a wake-up call. We need to stop blaming everybody else. We need to stop blaming the environment, and we need to take personal ownership. And we need to give the message out there that's a positive message, that if you are too fat, there is always something you can do about it. And that's the message we need to give.
Sarah, is it fair to expect every passenger to have to pay for someone that, as Steve has phrased it, doesn't take care of their own health and becomes obese?
Well, the problem is obesity is a chronic condition. So it's a case of it's not a choice, it's not a lifestyle choice, which I know people find really hard to accept. It's really not. The science and the evidence now shows us that some people are more likely to live with obesity than not. And it's not a case of just a personal choice. And I know Steve's shaking his head, but it's absolutely not. People can lose weight. I do not disagree with that. But what they can't do if they live with obesity is maintain that weight loss. So they will struggle and they will maintain their weight.
So you're suggesting then that it's not a personal choice. So there are some people that can't lose weight. Is that what you're saying? Because you're going to have to make your mind up. You're saying that there are. What I'm hearing you say actually is that there are reasons people will never lose weight, which I think is a terrible message. If I'm describing your research correctly.
I'm not saying they won't lose weight, Steve. I'm saying that they can't maintain weight loss when they've got to a certain BMI and they're living with a chronic condition, because that's what the science and the physiological things tell us. And that's what we need to look at here is the data and the evidence. And people live with obesity. It is a chronic condition. The World Health Organization deemed it as a disease in 1997.
But Sarah, I mean, forgive me, Sarah, but one of the things you said in your first answer was part of the issue here is that planes aren't accommodating the fact that we as a nation are getting bigger. Well, but we should be addressing that. We as a nation should not be getting bigger.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where things like the environment that we live in need to start changing. So looking at things like the food environment, we live in an obesogenic environment. So what that means is meaning that it's kind of encouraging people to live in larger bodies than not, because of all the food that's available, kind of the accessibility of it. So if people are more prone to live...
No. What it means is you start... No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And I hear all this scientific stuff all the time. Listen, there is always something you can do. There is always something you can do about your weight. There is always a way to improve your diet. There is always a way to take personal responsibility. Yes, it is a challenge. I agree with that. But there is always something you can do. And blaming other factors like the obesogenic environment, which I fully get and appreciate, right, is doing nothing to drive the motivation of our nation to become a healthy, decent weight and to look after ourselves. Putting out messages like, oh, it's because of this, that, and the other, actually, I believe, depresses people, actually, in terms of, basically, are you basically saying, oh, I'll never be able to be slim? I mean, that's kind of what your message is.
But Steve, that is the reality of someone who lives with obesity.
It's not the reality, because a lot of people are slim.
It's my life. Yeah, but it's my life. I have lost weight, 8.5 stone I've lost. I've then regained it.
It's not all about you. Listen, it's all about... This is about other people.
I'm representing what I'm saying with the people that live with...
You're representing you. Yes, you're representing you.
No, I'm not just representing me. I'm representing an organisation that supports people living with...
An organisation that sounds like it's saying use every excuse in the cookbook.
No, it's based on science and backing and the understanding of we know that obesity is not a choice. And that's the bit that you can't seem to accept.
So you're saying... Oh, right. So you're now saying...
Obesity is not a choice.
It's not a choice. So you're basically saying if you're fat, it's not a choice. It's not your fault. There's not a lot you can do about it. What a terrible message.
But some people will live in larger bodies than others, and we need to just accept that.
Yeah, because they're eating too much and not moving enough, and they need the motivation to move forward and do something about it. Why do you think a lot of people who are very, very heavy, right, end up doing very well and losing their weight and doing it? I mean, what a message to put out that they might not be able to,
they can't maintain that long term.
Oh, what a depressive message. Oh, if you're fat, you might lose it, but you won't. You'll get fat again. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, and so that's why things like bariatric surgery and some of these medications that are now coming are showing people and giving people a way of potentially managing their weight longer term.
Let's all be lab rats. Should we all be lab rats? Is that what you're saying now?
All right, OK. Look, we've got to leave it there. But Steve, it's really good to see you. And Sarah, good to see you too. Yeah, it's a difficult one. I have some sympathy in saying that I'm constantly on a diet, on and off a diet, because mentally it is very, very hard to sometimes motivate yourself to do it. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't keep having a go.
Lots of you have been getting in touch. I mean, Vernon, you say, I was obese. I now have a BMI of 27 for 2 years, so still overweight. Dieting is not a 6-month fix. You have to make a life change. Stay away from takeaways, processed foods and sugar. And I think that is what this is about. It is about a life change. But I also understand Sarah's point of view that there are some people who suffer from various mental and physical conditions that means they can't lose weight.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely right. But what you've therefore got to do is not normalise it. And I get Steve's point on that, saying the more you normalise it, the more people do care less about it. And it is about, at the end of the day, it's about being healthy. If you want to live a long, healthy life, you've got to look after yourself.
Yeah. Wraith, if I pronounce your name correctly, says, my husband struggles not because he's overweight, but because his height is 6'4" and very long legs. We pay extra for extra legroom on planes, so why shouldn't obese people do something similar?
Well, yeah, possibly.
I think that's a really good point, actually.
I mean, we are looking, perhaps we look at it at a selfish point of view when we say, well, we wouldn't want to be sat next to that person.
Well, I mean, come on, you're not human if you don't think that.
No.
Sorry.
Anyway, look, keep your thoughts coming through on that, gbnews.com/you'll say. Coming up, well, guess which rock band has topped the charts for the first time in 14 years?
I wonder.
I'll tell you in a minute.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
70% of population will make a judgment on someone just by looking at them. And within 2-3 seconds, we make a decision if we like someone or not.
Really? Is it that quick?
So it's actually very, very fast. So before we have a chance to kind of express what we want to say, our subconscious mind is kind of looking for clues. So you look at someone and you look at their, for example, I don't know, the watch they're wearing, maybe the makeup. I spent literally my whole childhood learning, being absolutely mesmerized by my mom's ability to choose different style of clothing for different style personalities. British definitely take a pride in their appearance. They do spend time to look good. There is a lot of amazing British designers. For me, it was always about that feeling that I've learned from my mom's shop, how the people were living, buying certain things. And I was like, oh my God, they look happy. They've got this big smile on their face. My main objective always was to make people feel good. So now as a stylist, I help them to go through style therapy. I help them to discover colors that are good for their colors that they wear them close to their face, but also it sets the tone for their wardrobe. And then we look at the outfit formula. So it's, yeah. When I look at Ellie's dress sense, I was just thinking, OK, she likes to be polished.
I do like to be polished.
Exactly. Elegant, timeless. I look at the reference to the dress you're wearing today. It's that kind of Chanel black and white, timeless, never go out of fashion. So for me, it's about, it's not the trends, but how you would like your personal style to be and how timeless it can be.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Right, welcome back. Now, Oasis has topped the UK album charts for the first time in over a decade with their debut album, Definitely Maybe.
Well, this achievement comes amid fan outrage over high ticket prices. Well, it's the fact the dynamic pricing, that the fewer tickets there are, the more the price goes up for the reunion tour that starts next year.
Yeah, journalist and podcast host James McMahon joins us now, and he's in London. James, thank you very much for joining us. Now, top of the charts. Well, who'd have thunk that would have happened, eh? What do you make of this whole Oasis phenomenon? I mean, it's gone mad, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I never doubted it for a second. I'm, you know, although I write and talk about music for a living, I'm at heart a 15-year-old kid who's just heard Oasis for the first time. I don't think that has ever wavered during my career. And this is something that I've wanted. And the response isn't anything unlike anything that I expected. I thought it would be the biggest story in music, and it continues to roll on and be that way. It's just along the way, there's starting to be new wrinkles to the story, like how culpable Oasis might be in the pricing of these tickets. I've just noticed, he's since deleted it, but I just noticed that Liam Gallagher logged onto Twitter this morning, and his first tweet of the day was, "Shut up." So, you know, Liam's back on the scene in his own interminable way. But as a fan, I'm sort of loving the chaos.
Yeah. Well, look, I can sort of see that. If it wasn't slightly chaotic, it'd be something else.
It would be Oasis.
I tell you what intrigues me, though, in terms of the album charts, what this would seem to indicate to me is this is the new generation. This is people wondering what all the fuss is about. Because, obviously, the die-hard fans, they've got Definitely Maybe. They've got it on CD. They've probably downloaded it onto iTunes or whatever years and years ago.
Yeah, I mean, the vinyl charts constantly confuse me. Like, I never understand who it is that's still buying Rumours by Fleetwood Mac, which is consistently in the top 10 vinyl records being bought. You know, there's a lot of people within my industry that talk about there being a vinyl revival, but I don't see that with new acts. Like, it's heritage acts like Oasis. As much as it pains me to describe Oasis in such a way, you know, they are a heritage act at this point. I think, I mean, there's been the Definitely Maybe anniversary, and there's a Definitely Maybe reissue. So, and there's a whole load of quite cool things that come with that package, like unheard recordings and great artwork and sleeve notes written by my friend Hamish McBain. So there's another reason to kind of go buy that record. There's a Strawberries and Cream pressing where I'll give you strawberries and cream, which I've asked my wife for Christmas. So, you know, I'm hoping that'll be in my very wide stocking. So yeah, you know, like
James, isn't that how it works? They do a reissue. That's why it's gone straight to the back of the chart, top of the charts. It's people who have it from back in the day and probably have in every format, but they reissue an album, especially in a lovely coloured vinyl. All the fans that already have it several times over are just going to go and buy it again.
Yeah, I think there is that, but I also think the point that you were making before this about a younger generation, that's the thing that's very interesting to me about this reunion, is that whilst I just described them as a heritage act, and I think there's some validity to that, in the sense that I don't expect to hear new music from Oasis at any point soon. It is, you know, there's a lot of young people who are so excited about this band. They've almost become quite timeless. Liam particularly, I think, has connected with an audience so far you wouldn't expect to be engaged with what he's doing at this point in his career. And if anything, I think Noel benefits from that, because Noel sort of, his solo work, High Flying Birds, has embraced a more, shall we say, seasoned kind of music fan. So, I like I say, all of those people who were so desperate to get Oasis tickets, it's not just people my age, it's also their kids.
James, just very, very quickly, finally, I know we're running out of time, just very quickly, do you think we'll get a new album from the brothers? New music?
I mean, it's not a bet that I'd be willing to take right now. Like, I'm very optimistic about this reunion, and I think that they are back. Like, I don't just think this is a flash in the pan. At the same time, I also think that if you were trying to get an Oasis ticket a week ago, getting a ticket for Cardiff the first date would probably be your safest bet. I'd like to see them get a couple of gigs under their belt first, you know?
Yeah.
Right, OK. James McMahon, going to leave it there. Thanks very much indeed. We are really tight for time. Papers in just a moment.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
More than half of people aged 50 and over feel happier from having a friendship, and 46% feel a sense of belonging too. Tomorrow is the start of Friendship Month. The Oddfellows, a non-profit friendly society that provides older adults with opportunities to create new friendships, is now inviting more people this September to join their local groups and expand their friendship circles through giving a taster activity at local community centres. We're joined now by Jane Nelson, who's the CEO of Oddfellows. Good morning, Jane. Thanks for joining us. As someone in my mid-30s, I've even noticed as well that my own friendship group has diminished over the years as kind of, you know, people get married and have kids, and they kind of drift apart and don't make time for each other.
How important is it to have friends separate to your family? What benefit does that bring you?
As you do get older, you do lose friends for a variety of reasons. Either you lose touch or they have an illness or they pass away as you get older. The stats show that people love spending time with their friends. It always takes somebody, doesn't it? Somebody's got to make that first step to send a text to say, do you fancy meeting up for coffee, or do you fancy going to the pub, or whatever the arrangement's going to be. But sometimes somebody always has to make that first step and text or phone. And I think the other key thing is it usually tends to be the same person, but that doesn't matter as long as that connectivity is made, because that's what you need. You need the connectivity. If you think about when we were children, we'd go around the playground and say, will you be my friend? Well, we don't tend to do that as we get older. But be brave, look on Oddfellows website, see all the amazing events we've got on, go to see what's going on in your area, oddfellows.co.uk, or you can telephone 0800 028 1810, and our team will be more than happy to point them in the right direction of their local events, and there's so much going on, 300 going on.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tune in to Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. GB News royalty with your perfect start to the weekend. Lucky us! Feisty and fearless guests.
Well, I'm a normal person, so ask me.
Honest opinions that raises more questions than a Gary Barlow tax return. And a few surprises along the way. Might be cold in this studio. That is Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. 8 to 9 only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, time for the papers. Emma Wolfe and Jonathan Liss are here.
And they're off already.
Can I have a say about the national anthem? I actually love it, because I didn't get my say, did I, about the England interim, and I think I disagree with Mr McGee. I think he's going to be very much interim, because I don't think they'll keep him on no matter how well he does. No. But I just wanted to say about the anthem, national anthem. I love it when it plays at 6 in the morning. Weirdly, I find it very emotional. I know loads of viewers love it when you guys play the national anthem at 6.
Well, I will say, Anne Diamond always sings the national anthem when it's on.
And we all stand up in the green room and in the studio.
And she's just sent me a picture from France, where she is at the moment. Oh. She's the only one up, and she's drinking what may well be a cocktail by the pool. Morning, Anne.
Morning, Anne.
Sending lots of love to you.
I hope it is a cocktail.
I should think it probably is.
Go for it, Anne.
All right, can we talk, Emma, about probation officers in The Guardian?
Can we? My goodness, this is the government's early release scheme. Ugh, shakes head. About 2,000 prisoners are set to be released on Tuesday. Normally, probation officers would get 3 months to prepare for serious offenders in terms of their sort of rehabilitation, in terms of preparing the services for their monitoring and rehabilitation. They've been given about a week. In fact, they were told on the 3rd of September, i.e. last Tuesday, that they're going to be released this Tuesday. 2,000, and some of these are serious offenders. They're going to be out on our streets, and there is an actual risk, high risk, from serious offenders, and another 1,700 being released in October.
I don't think anyone would say that it's a great thing to release people before halfway through their sentence, Emma. The government certainly isn't saying that. Even Conservatives were agreeing that this was necessary because of what the last government had done in regards to prison places and cuts to the whole judicial system. We need to have a whole conversation about how we deal with offences and criminals and the whole justice system. You know, the last government closed 43% of all courts in England and Wales. They starved the Ministry of Justice of hundreds of millions of pounds, fewer police on the streets. And so we need a root and branch conversation, I suppose, and also a conversation about what the purpose of prison is, what it should do, what it shouldn't do. In the meantime, before we have that conversation, clearly there is a terrible crisis of prison overcrowding, and we need to do something about it. And so the Justice Secretary has put into place plans that the previous government had already discussed, which is to let people out at 40%, provided they are not...
Absolutely shocking. We are putting people into prison at the moment.
What I just said?
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely about what is prison for. I've said for years, I've been saying you can't just shove people in and expect that it won't be overcrowded. You've got to rehabilitate people. Otherwise, all they do, meet other criminals, get more criminal, and come out and reoffend. The reoffending rates are shocking. You cannot expect the system to work.
What is the government meant to do when it's...
Yeah, but that is fundamental. We don't have the prison estate just to keep putting people in. We've got 88,000 in at the moment. But what I disagree on is this is about choices, Jonathan. This is about choices. Labour at the moment are putting people in prison who have, tweeted things on...
Emma, we've talked about this. Labour has not put anyone in prison. The government is not in the courtroom. That is a fundamental principle of the way our constitution works. The judiciary is separate from the government.
OK.
All right.
With the lead from the Prime Minister, the judiciary are convicting and locking people up who have done things on social media,
Emma,
and I disagree with that.
It's not the government. Labour did not introduce
the judiciary.
Labour did not introduce any... Fine then, but you're saying the government did.
Former
Emma,
DPP.
We literally had this conversation on a radio station which isn't related to this one a couple of weeks ago, where I pointed out that under the previous government, exactly the same sentencing would have taken place because the Labour government has not introduced any new legislation about this or any new sentencing guidelines. So everything you're complaining about would have happened under the Conservative government. Do I agree with you that some of those offences from the riots should have been handled differently? Actually, in some cases, yes. I think that... for example, when you tweet appalling things, I think it should be very, very high threshold for criminality. And in some cases, even though action did need to be taken, a suspended sentence would have been more appropriate, particularly if someone deletes a post and all kinds of things. So you can have a conversation about what people are going to prison for. We can also have a conversation about whether someone should go to prison for 4 years for participating in a Zoom conversation about blocking the M25, for example, while rapists are getting suspended sentences. Of course, we need to have a conversation about consistency in this. Can
we have a conversation about going to the loo now, very quickly?
Absolutely.
Very quickly.
Spend a penny, very, very quickly. Daily Telegraph, Jonathan, your story. Welsh Parliament fouls if members go to the toilet.
So this is a story about the new First Minister of Wales saying that she wants to have more members of the Senedd because I think she wants to go from 60 to 98 members.
96.
And she uses the example that in committees, there were so few members there that if one of them went to the toilet, the meeting would no longer be quorate and they'd have to suspend it, which obviously I don't know what that says about maybe not enough members were attending. But in general, I don't think it's a bad thing to have a little bit more representation. It would certainly be good for the smaller parties to have, because obviously they're talking about having proportional representation as well, so that they would have more representation. I don't think it's such a vast inflation, but other people would disagree.
Well, we are out of time, and frankly, we've heard enough about members on that subject to keep me going
Time
all
for a
weekend.
quick tea break, but before you go, here's the weather with Aidan.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Following a remarkably warm day yesterday, it is another very warm day in the northwest today. Cloudier elsewhere and further spells of showery rain in places. Although, having said that, actually it's mostly dry as we start things off this Saturday morning. A lot of cloud for England and Wales, especially in the east and the south where that cloud will be low. It'll be misty at times. Through the day, the cloud will produce a bit more rain, and that rain will be of a showery nature, but there'll be some heavy bursts. It'll feel warm wherever you are, but in Scotland, especially to the west, as well as Northern Ireland, northwest England, temperatures reaching the low to mid-20s, feeling very warm in the widespread sunny skies we're expecting there. Perhaps some sunshine coming through for North Wales, East Anglia, for example, but it's at this stage in the day where we're likely to see increasingly heavy rain starting to push north into much of southern and central England and Wales. Misty low cloud for northeast England as well as eastern Scotland, but for central and western Scotland and Northern Ireland, a beautiful day to come. Once again, just like the last couple of days, widespread blue skies, temperatures reaching the mid-20s. A degree or so down on Friday's temperatures, but still summer-like warmth finally, following a disappointing summer. But as you can see, into Saturday night, the rain becomes more extensive across much of England and Wales, and it's heavy at times. Could be some thunderstorms out there. It's going to be a muggy night with temperatures staying up at 15 to 17 Celsius. Then that rainfall, well, it's going to be pushing north across the country. It could affect the Great North Run for a time through the middle part of the day. And it's going to be heading into the central belt, but fizzling out before it gets to Western Scotland and Northern Ireland. So mostly a fine day here, and another warm day, not quite as warm, a bit more cloud about. Elsewhere, feeling cool under those outbreaks of showery rain.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be then.
First of all, just explain how you came to have this painting in your possession.
It was sat there all my lifetime, sort of thing, while I was growing up, above the television in the corner. It was only back about 12 years ago that a visitor, she said, "Oh, I think it looks like William Shakespeare, you know, I like your copy of William Shakespeare," and was shocked to see it was an original painting. So it was only then that I started researching, and the different institutions have helped with the x-rays and all the rest of it. But then, is it actually Shakespeare? Well, all the facial comparisons, technology, everything like that, all matches with the Droschau, which is the only known 2D image of Shakespeare. And who do you go to find that out?
There's a suggestion in the Sun's write-up of this story that you've been struggling to be heard in the academic world, the lofty art world. It's all a bit snooty. Yes. It's about who you know, and you're a tradesman.
Yes, yes. That is definitely true in some avenues, but then I have to say, and it's lovely to be able to have this opportunity to say it, there's other people in that world that have been fabulous. It's taken a long time to sort of get listened to. We want the discussion out there because all the evidence that we've got indicates that this really should be discussed.
GB News, the People's Channel.
And I'm standing here.
Good morning. Outcries. England's manager rules out singing the national anthem at tonight's game against the Republic of Ireland.
Lee Carsley risks furious backlash as he takes charge of the England team for the first time.
And he admits he struggles with singing God Save the King after playing for the Republic of Ireland dozens of times.
On the same day, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer meets Irish Taoiseach Simon Harris as he looks to repair post-Brexit relations.
Now, believe it or not, tomorrow is the 2-year anniversary of the Queen's death. The government's announced a memorial in her honour.
And Oasis may have caused you all to look back in anger with the ticket prices, but not enough to stop the duo from returning to the top of the music charts for the first time in over a decade.
There's a furious online debate. We had a furious debate on screen in the last hour after a very, very large man struggled to fit onto a plane seat. So we were asking this morning whether it's time to charge bigger passengers more.
And Britain's annual Viking Festival gets underway to mark the anniversary of the Battle of Largs.
There was heartache at Flushing Meadow for Britain's Jack Draper. He endured a severe bout of illness on court before losing out to world number one Yannick Sinner at the US Open. We look ahead to England's Nations League clash with the Republic of Ireland in Dublin, and it's ton up for our Paralympians who reach 100 medals in Paris.
The weekend is here. Will we keep the summer-like warmth in the northwest? Will we keep the wet weather in the south? Or will it all change once again? I'll have the full forecast coming up very soon.
Just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is GB News Breakfast. Good morning. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend out there. I just want to read to you. You may have heard earlier on about that large passenger on the plane, and the somewhat heated debate we had about should larger passengers pay more for their seats, etc., and the whole obesity debate got very heated. And we are talking about it later as well. But I just want to read two of your messages out because I think they're both quite important. Neil says, "Isn't it strange that none of those people I refer to who have physical conditions, mean they can't lose weight, live in parts of the world where there are no food, where there are food shortages even?" Meanwhile, Siobhan, in reply, says, "It is difficult. I'm fuming. My son is autistic. His brain doesn't tell him when he is full. He would eat every 2 hours if he had the chance. It's Prader-Willi syndrome, so he cannot lose weight. It's not easy for everyone." Two sides of that debate there about it's why some people, can't be the perfect shape that, some people imagine we should be.
I don't think it's about being the perfect shape.
No, it's about healthy.
It's about being healthy. And if someone like Siobhan's son can't lose weight because he has, this condition, well, that's got to be accepted. But the general messaging, when you talk about general messaging, it's about people who just want an excuse to eat or to say, "Oh, it's not my fault, I can't help it." The vast, vast majority of people can lose weight. And I know it's hard. I mean, I'm always dieting.
You're very good with... You do manage it, though, quite well.
I do. I mean, partly because I'm a type 1 diabetic.
That's important. So we're always told, aren't we? We're always told, aren't we, control your weight and it will solve the rest of the problems around it.
Well, so it sorts out a lot of them. So you do need to be... we do need to watch that. And it's extra hard when you're counting calories and carbohydrates.
Absolutely,
which we have to do.
I know.
But most people, the vast majority of people can lose weight. They just need the willpower to do it, and that is very hard, but we should be encouraging rather than just saying, "Oh, it's fine, don't worry about it."
And take responsibility rather than blame it. It's the government's fault I'm fat. Not really. The government doesn't force you into that fried chicken shop, does it? Just saying.
Yeah, so there you go. Paul says you can weigh 200 kilograms at no extra cost. But if your luggage goes a couple of kilos over, you have to pay.
That's a good point. A lot of you have mentioned the excess luggage. So if you're flying certain budget airlines where you have to pay sort of like, 50 quid just to take your wallet on, basically. You pay for the excess weight of baggage. Why not?
Some people put their clothes on, don't they?
Can you imagine if you had to re-weigh to get on a plane? Just sort of like, "I'm sorry, you're 10 pounds overweight, madam. That's another 50 quid.
Well... Yeah.
You're not thinking that's a good thing.
I wouldn't think that because not everyone has to be stick thin. I mean, you can still be large, but it's that difference about being larger or bigger boned or maybe just a bit podgy compared to being obese. Clinically
obese. It's a healthy size for your build, isn't it? And obviously, if you're going on the BMI thing, if you're a sportsman, which we're coming up to now, you might have muscle, which weighs heavier than fat. Therefore, you're going to weigh more.
BMI's often rubbish.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Absolutely, I agree with that.
To be fair. Anyway, right, let's crack on. See, Aidan's here, and that's because we're talking about England manager Lee Carsley, who said he's not going to sing the national anthem. What is his first game today?
He did play 40 times himself for Ireland and is leading the England senior team out for the first time as caretaker manager. I would humbly suggest if he wants the job, this isn't the best way to start it, Aidan McGee, is it?
Well, look, he was asked about it in a press conference yesterday. I doubt he'd given the question much thought beforehand. I don't think he'd really framed an answer. Maybe that's what comes with suddenly stepping into a really big job. You have to answer these questions and deal with that kind of thing. But, look, he didn't even sing the Republic of Ireland national anthem when he played for the team at the World Cup in 2002, in among all his other 40-odd caps as well. So it isn't really a big deal. I mean, lots of other players for various countries I've seen, including England players last summer at the Euros, didn't sing the national anthem. And so he was asked about it in a press conference. Yesterday he said, "Look, my ritual at the start in between warming up and starting the match was different. I didn't get in the zone when I was singing, if I was singing the national anthem." And so I think we just have to respect his choice. It doesn't mean he doesn't want England to win as much. It doesn't mean he has any kind of loyalty to one country or another. He's very proud of his Irish heritage and his Irish passport and his Ireland caps and the fact that he represents them at the World Cup. I just think on a silly season weekend when the football is not as... There's no Premier League football, and we just think there's a bit of a lull. As you said earlier on, you prefer it when there's league football, don't you?
Yeah, on a separate note, getting away from
it's just gained more traction than it's...
All right, OK, let's bring in Mike Parry, the journalist and broadcaster, who's in Surrey for us this morning. It's silly season, Mike. None of it really matters, according to Aidan. What do you think?
No, I think it does matter. I'm not going to, issue a statement. I'm outraged that the England manager won't sing the national anthem, because I know Lee Carsley. He played for a long time for my team, Everton, and he's a very decent man. Due to family reasons, he spent the last 20 years working in charities in the Midlands, where he was brought up in Birmingham, and he's a very decent guy. But I would say to him, he's wrong on this occasion. It's all very well to say, oh, I get in the zone and all that. A manager's job should be done by the time the teams are lining up before a game, because they've had days, weeks, months.
Mike, that's not true. That's not true. The manager's job goes on through the game. You make your substitutions at 60 minutes, 70 minutes, goodness knows when else.
Yeah, but it's not 60 or 70 minutes then. No, hey, let me finish, please. What I'm saying is, he owes his whole sporting life, Lee Carsley, to English football. He's played for Everton, Derby, Blackburn, Coventry, 6 teams, I think, in the English Premier and Championship. He owes his whole life to English football. He owes it everything. The fact that his grandmother was born in Cork was a reason why he played for Ireland. A lot of players use the loophole to play for Ireland or Wales or another team if they don't think they're going to graduate to the full England team.
OK, Mike, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, right? Let me ask you this, Mike, because... Yeah. Back in '95, there's an incendiary element to this as well. Back in '95, you were head of comms at the FA, and you saw the riot take place at Lansdowne Road in the old railway stand, and you had to personally apologise to the Prime Minister of Ireland the following day because of what erupted in the stadium. Is there not an issue here around if the wrong thing is said or sung on a given occasion, it can have ructions that extend far beyond football?
No, I think that's a separate issue. You've got to divide the two. You can't say, oh, just in case we upset some people in the crowd, the England manager won't sing the national anthem. That you've got a social problem with the people in the ground, but you've got a pride and nationality issue with the England manager. In my view, he should sing the national anthem. Now, I know we've had foreign managers in the past. We've had Sven, we've had Fabio Capello.
We've had English players not singing it, Mike.
But, OK, but he's not the player, he's the manager. He is now right at the forefront of English football. He's the manager of the England football team, and I think he should demonstrate how proud he is to carry that title by singing the national anthem. I can't imagine for a minute why he doesn't. It's a mercenary game, football. You know that better than me, Aidan. It's so mercenary. Players can play in different countries with different clubs, and managers as well. But the point is, this is not a foreign manager saying, I'm not going to sing the national anthem of England, who I manage. It's an Englishman and an English player who's made his life in English football and, in my view, should sing the national anthem to illustrate the pride with which he carries that title.
OK. There we have to leave it. Aidan, Mike, thank you both very much indeed. Really good to see you. I'm sure you've got a take on that. Do let us know, gbnews.com/yourself.
And now to politics, which can be equally fiery, let's be honest. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer is visiting the Republic of Ireland today to meet with Irish Taoiseach Simon Harris. The pair will discuss resetting the UK-Irish relations as Starmer becomes the first Prime Minister to visit our nearest neighbours for 5 years.
Yeah, so what does he actually want to get out of it? Political commentator Piers Pottinger is here. Morning, Piers.
Morning, Steve.
It's a real case, but whatever he wants to get out of it, can he actually achieve anything?
Not really. And when it comes to resetting, actually Europe's resetting itself at the moment. Most of the countries are going through turmoil. France have just appointed Michel Barnier as their Prime Minister, who is the man in charge of Brexit, and his overt hostility to Britain is for everyone to see in his book about Brexit. We have a scandal in Italy with the First Minister there being having to resign over a sex scandal and causing Maloney a lot of trouble. You have the far right winning in Germany. Europe and the economies of all these countries, incidentally, are much worse than our own. And so Ireland is a very fragile economy and is also, don't forget, in Northern Ireland, where Sinn Féin is the leading party, very worryingly, a well-known, completely anti-British and anti-monarchist party. So I just think Starmer's doing the rounds. I don't think he'll get anything significant out of it. And it's just, I think, a distraction for him, probably a welcome one, from all the problems at home.
What is Simon Harris's relationship with the Sinn Féin? Is he close to them, or is he...?
Well, it's very hard to tell because the Irish are very good at playing their cards close to the chest. And you have a situation with, for example, Sue Gray here, Chief of Staff for Starmer, who ran a pub in the borders of Northern Ireland. And there's an awful lot of gossip and speculation about whether she was, in fact, a British spy during the Troubles or whether she was actually more close to the IRA, which no one knows because she is very tight-lipped about her time in Ireland, in Northern Ireland, rather. And the Irish government were very, very unhelpful to Britain during Brexit and remain so. They're very ill-disposed towards us.
Is there any point in... I mean, we've had these... Starmer's been to France.
Yep.
He's been to Germany.
Yep.
Going to Ireland.
Yep.
Right, I mean, getting relationships with these people going... Cannot be a bad thing, politically and diplomatically. Yeah. But the EU operates as a bloc.
Yeah, so we're not a member of it.
Yeah, but they can't make unilateral decisions, can they?
No, but, I mean, we have independent trade with these countries, and if he was actually improving trade agreements, that would be totally justifiable. But we've had no announcements, interestingly enough. Normally, after a Prime Minister visits a country, there's a communiqué published where there's at least some token trade announcement. We haven't even had a token trade announcement from any of his visits so far. And therefore, I just think it's a bit of a waste of time. And he's clocking up the air miles, which will please Ed Miliband, I'm sure.
It's important, though, Piers, to be talking, to actually go and...
Yeah, well, he's got to meet them, and fair enough. I mean, I mean, fine, he's done it, he's met these people, good. I mean, he's got to, because our Foreign Secretary is completely useless, and thank goodness we have, in some ways, at least Starmer's got a brain, which is more than David Lammy has.
I think that's a little bit unfair.
Well, David Lammy has caused, I mean, enormous international embarrassment for Britain by his treatment of Israel, and particularly damaged our relationship with our biggest ally, and most important ally, the United States. And his behaviour is actually extraordinary for any Foreign Secretary to do what he's done.
Would he be behaving like that if he didn't have the backing of his boss, i.e. the Prime Minister?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I do question sometimes. I mean, Starmer is, by all accounts, very much his own man, very authoritarian, very ruthless. I don't know how long he'll tolerate Lammy.
Well, we shall see.
Interesting.
We shall see. Piers, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you, Piers.
Pleasure.
Right, I tell you what is interesting with these politicians, though. I mean, you know, you've got a point that there is a perception of David Lammy. If you meet David Lammy in the flesh, I was bizarrely enough on New Year's Day this year. He was at this event I was at, this party in someone's house, and it was just like, oh,
random.
Hello. I mean, terrific person. But it's a bit like Priti Patel, who comes across as being extremely harsh. If you spend any time...
You meet her, she's, lovely.
Priti is absolutely fantastic in the flesh. She's such a lovely, caring, warm person. But they present these other images when they're working. And I sometimes think it would be helpful for them if they were just a bit more themselves.
To be real, yeah, absolutely, to be real, and just to answer questions.
Oh, that would be nice.
I mean, Rob Rinder, who I've worked with in the past, put this simple tweet out yesterday saying, can you just answer a simple question? And that would do...
Has he ever met a politician?
Well, quite, yeah. But, I mean, that would go such a long way to everybody, no matter what political persuasion you are out there, to thinking, actually, that makes sense. I'd rather you be honest than just go off on a tangent and say a load of words that mean nothing.
There's one politician who does answer questions, which is a very good point, Dawn, and it sets him above everyone else, and that's Nigel Farage. You ask him a straight question, he'll give you a direct answer. He won't go off on a tangent.
No, but that's because, and I agree with you, absolutely, but that's because his party's in the position it's in at the moment. Because I was going to say the one person who, well, the two people who always gave me straight answers were Paddy Ashdown and I've forgotten his blooming name now. The guy who took over from him, who tragically lost his life. Oh, his name's got out of my head. Charlie Kennedy.
Yeah,
Charlie Kennedy. Yeah. That's old age kicking in for me. But straight answer. You always got straight answers, but that's partly because they knew they weren't in government and weren't going to get into government.
Well, actually, can I just have a quick word here? I actually have been hugely lucky enough to interview 4 Prime Ministers, and the only one that gave me straight answers and I was impressed by was Margaret Thatcher back in the day.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're talking about a great there against a whole load of pygmies.
Yeah.
No, it'd be very nice if we just got straight answers, but that's not how it works in the modern world, sadly. Never mind, Piers, we live in hope, don't we?
Thanks we do. Now, let's have a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom.
A man who took part in the riots in Rotherham last month has got the longest prison sentence handed out by judges to date following the widespread violence. He's Thomas Burley, 27. He's been jailed for 9 years after pleading guilty to arson with intent to endanger life, 1 count of violent disorder and possession of an offensive weapon.
And the Israel Defence Forces is facing questions after reports opened fire in occupied West Bank during a protest, killing a 26-year-old US-Turkish woman, Asenya Eziyergi, as an American citizen, and was taking part in a protest against Jewish settlement expansion. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has called Egi's death a tragic loss and said American officials are focused on establishing what happened.
And the Royal Navy has named 31-year-old Lieutenant Rodri Lation as the serviceman killed in a night flying exercise in the Channel earlier this week. On Wednesday, a Merlin helicopter crashed off the coast of Dorset. 3 crew members on board, including Lieutenant Lation. His family have said he was immeasurably loved by parents, siblings, his partner and friends.
Yeah. Well, time to get the weather, is it?
I think it is.
I think it's probably time to get the weather because it is a weekend and it's going to be, well, is it going to be a glorious weekend? We know what weekends are like at this time of year, don't we? Let's find out with Aidan, shall we?
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Following a remarkably warm day yesterday, it is another very warm day in the northwest today. Cloudier elsewhere and further spells of showery rain in places. Although, having said that, actually it's mostly dry as we start things off this Saturday morning. A lot of cloud for England and Wales, especially in the east and the south where that cloud will be low. It'll be misty at times. Through the day, the cloud will produce a bit more rain, and that rain will be of a showery nature, but there'll be some heavy bursts. It'll feel warm wherever you are, but in Scotland, especially to the west, as well as Northern Ireland, northwest England, temperatures reaching the low to mid-20s, feeling very warm in the widespread sunny skies we're expecting there. Perhaps some sunshine coming through for North Wales, East Anglia, for example, but it's at this stage in the day where we're likely to see increasingly heavy rain starting to push north into much of southern and central England and Wales. Misty low cloud for northeast England as well as eastern Scotland, but for central and western Scotland and Northern Ireland, a beautiful day to come. Once again, just like the last couple of days, widespread blue skies, temperatures reaching the mid-20s. A degree or so down on Friday's temperatures, but still summer-like warmth, finally following a disappointing summer. But as you can see, into Saturday night, the rain becomes more extensive across much of England and Wales, and it's heavy at times. Could be some thunderstorms out there. It's going to be a muggy night with temperatures staying up at 15 to 17 Celsius. Then that rainfall, well, it's going to be pushing north across the country. It could affect the Great North Run for a time through the middle part of the day. And it's going to be heading into the central belt, but fizzling out before it gets to Western Scotland and Northern Ireland. So mostly a fine day here, and another warm day, not quite as warm, a bit more cloud about. Elsewhere, feeling cool under those outbreaks of showery rain.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Lucia's been in touch in Winchester. Lovely, I love Winchester. She says, Stephen, you are wrong. Nigel Farage has always given straight and truthful answers throughout his political life. Now, I mean, yes, I totally agree. I didn't say he hadn't. My point with that is that you're in a position to do that when you're in a smaller party that isn't, at the moment, at least, anywhere near government.
I think you have a point, which is why I mentioned Margaret Thatcher, because she was actually Prime Minister at the time.
Which that's very
and she was just
unusual.
completely straight down the line. Whereas when I interviewed David Cameron, it was like even talking about a simple, you know, chit-chat subject, nothing to the questions, even talking about football. Was like, just give me a straight answer. We're just talking about football. This is not part of the interview.
They're so worried about what... You know, being held to account. Partly it's news programmes and online and all the rest of it, which means everything they say is there for time immemorial.
Yeah.
So they can be hold it back over it.
Yeah, but you know, part of me, that's what I quite liked about Angela Rayner at one point, because she would say it like it was, and I would understand her because she's a working class girl. But she started suddenly talking in word soup now.
Yeah, but they have to.
That's your point, though, isn't it? It's like when they get that power.
I have a bit of sympathy for it. It's why you always want to talk to them when they've left the job, because then you get a straight answer again. I tell you who he actually, and you might not be a fan, but actually he's got the guts to come on this programme, because a lot of the Labour cabinet
Spherical objects,
and that's Wes Streeting.
Yes.
The Health Secretary. He will come on the programme, and actually he does give you a pretty straight answer.
Yeah.
Now, I admire that. You don't have to agree with what he says. I admire the fact he comes on and does it.
But this is the point. This should be the point of politics. It should be able to, as I said earlier on, to have a debate, to listen to opinions, but you don't have to start screaming abuse at one another. And that's why Wes Streeting is good, because he comes on, he says it like it is, and then you can think, well, actually, that's a point. Oh, no, I disagree with you. But you do it in a sensible way.
Valerie's been in touch saying, how do you know Nigel Farage and Reform will not be in government? They're the only ones that can say about... Well, they're not going to be in government for at least 5 years. And even then, statistically, it's still going to be very hard for them. I mean, even Nigel Farage says they're sort of aiming for government in 10 years, doesn't he?
Well...
Say that? So it's like... They're in that... And it's a great position to be in as a smaller party, because it means you get to have you really have your say without the consequences of having to enact it. It's the advantage of being in opposition.
It's very easy to be in opposition, and I think Labour are discovering that now, aren't they?
How difficult it is for them.
Now it's like you can't just keep going, it's them over there, it's their fault, and you can only go, it's them back there, it's their fault for so long.
Or we're going to solve it all with non-dom tax.
The non-dom... Yeah, they've gone really quiet on that.
Funny,
that was going to fix everything. And this mysterious £20 billion black hole that literally everybody knew about. Literally everybody. Yeah. We were discussing it on GB News for months. How did they not notice?
Don't know. But it is difficult in government. Maybe the Tories are enjoying the relief.
Maybe we should give it a try, Stephen. What do you reckon? Yeah. What do you reckon?
I think we'd probably do an all right job.
I think you'd be a pretty good... What could I be? Could I be your Home Secretary? If you're Prime Minister, could I be your Home Secretary, do you think?
Oh, yeah.
Sorted.
You'd sort it out.
Yeah.
Right. Time for the Great British Giveaway. It's our biggest cash prize ever.
Yeah, it's £36,000 and it could be yours. I mean, that is an extra £3,000 tax-free in your bank account each month for an entire year. What would you do with that, I wonder? Well, I've got lots of thoughts, but we can't enter. You can, and here's how you do it.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This Bank Holiday Monday, we'll be celebrating National Dog Day by uncovering how many pet owners would rather spend the bank holiday with their pet over their partner. In fact, new research has uncovered the 5 key personas that make up Generation Pet. That's a new wave of post-pandemic pet owners, with 58% saying they worry about their pet being diagnosed with a serious illness. Well, joining us now to tell us more about how we should be caring for our pampered pooches is Dr. Edwina Gildia.
Some of the interesting facts coming through that is that 80% of us think that pet as part of the family. The new pet owners who have come on board during the pandemic, there's a lot to learn with being a new pet owner. Interesting facts, as you mentioned, a third of pet owners are preferring to spend time with their pet this weekend over their partner. 60% of pet owners, and dog, which is specifically calling them out, say that their dog improves their mental health, and 55% noting that improves their physical health by getting out and about.
It's also about showing that love and appreciation for these animals which don't ask anything of us but love.
That was another point that came through this research that we did at Zoetis UK, is that they bring a purpose to life. And I think that's another thing to call out. It's so important for ourselves, for society, to have that purpose. But with that comes responsibility. And that's ensuring that we do support their health, and we know how to do that as well.
If you'd rather spend your bank holiday with your dog than your partner, maybe we've got too much of an over-reliance on our pets?
I think it depends on what way you look at it. For some people, it may be a connection. I think it's a positive thing that we have, and we should celebrate it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Now, it's 2 years tomorrow since Queen Elizabeth passed away in Balmoral.
I really can't believe that. The Prime Minister has paid tribute to the late monarch's enduring legacy of service and devotion to our country, saying she will never be forgotten.
Yeah, there's going to be a new national memorial in her honour. It's going to stand in St James's Park. I hope it's just a blooming great statue, actually. We don't get enough traditional statues now.
Can we just have... Yeah, well, the one you mentioned, which was in... blah, blah, blah.
In Oakham.
Yes,
in
exactly.
Rutland.
In Rutland, yeah. That was lovely. That was the Queen looking at the Queen with the corgis on the plinth.
Just really nice, respectful,
I don't want
beautiful.
A triangle with a circle on it saying, this is the Queen. It's not. Yeah. Shall we find out what journalist at The Spectator and Daily Telegraph, journalist Alex Larman, has to say on this one? Thank you for joining us, Alex. So this is good. It's going to be a lovely statue. It's about time. Is it in the right place, though?
Well, I mean, I think that the Queen's been overdue a statue because obviously she's so beloved and so held in such high estimation by the people. But obviously, 2 years after her death, it's all about finding the right place for it and doing it in the right way. And I think that, as you say, what we don't want is some sort of abstract thing, which is just ridiculous, because that's not what anybody wants. That's not a tribute to her. And I mean, the one in Rutland isn't bad, actually, because, OK, that's not going to be the full formal thing. But I think there's a lot of potential for it to go wrong because it depends who's involved in picking it, where it's going to go and how it's going to be done. And I think it's going to be absolutely essential. But it conveys every aspect of her, and that's hard in a statue because, you know, you look at the famous statue of Churchill in the Cenotaph, and that's a really good example of who he was. And you look at that and you think that is Winston Churchill, that is a fitting legacy of him. So with this, it's going to be very difficult because obviously, what age of the Queen do you portray? Do you portray the young Queen, the person who came to the throne unprepared on the death of her father and changed the monarchy? Do you present the middle-aged Queen, the person who was going through, you know, unimaginable turmoil in Britain? Or do you portray the older Queen? And so that's a hard decision that someone's going to have to make.
But actually, Alex, I think that's an easy decision. I think you go for the older Queen, because this is commemorating her reign and the full length of it, and that gives you an opportunity to have that twinkle in the eye and that image of her that we've come to know and love over recent years.
Oh yeah, I mean, when I think about the Queen, it's always with the twinkle in her eye. It's the first thing I think about. Yeah. Because the thing is, I mean, that's what, you know, she is so much missed, because you look at the 2 years since she died, they have not been great years for the royal family. There's been illness, there's been a sense of slight chaos, I think, especially in the last few months, a sort of drift away from what these things should be. And I think that when you look back on her extraordinarily long, extraordinarily distinguished reign, as an example of that's what should have been. That's the person who ultimately was the greatest monarch in this country's history.
Alex,
and that's something that we...
Oh, sorry, Alex. I'm so glad you said that, because you literally took that thought right out of my mind. Lots of people are saying that. Since we lost the Queen, everything seems to have gone a bit wrong.
Well, I mean, she managed the firm, and I think that's the best way of looking at it. But she and the Duke of Edinburgh, who I think has often been an underrated figure, because we talk about Prince Philip as somebody who had his gaffes and his casual bits of racism and so forth, but actually underneath that exterior, he was a very sharp, very persistent man who really knew what the royal family needed to do. And so, yes, I think you're right. I think that in the last, especially this year, there has been this sense of drift, because I'll give you an example of why the Queen was so much better at this than anyone in the current administration. When Harry and Meghan were going on television and saying they'd been mistreated, blah, 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 recollections may vary was such a brilliant and such a damning line, but immediately it undercut everything they said. And you haven't got anything like that now. The King is not capable or not willing to go studs in the way that you need to on that disagreeable pair. And the fact is that since she died, there is a real sense that the royal family has not been at its A game, and I don't know if it's ever going to recover it now.
Well, look, I mean, you have great admiration for Queen Elizabeth, as most of us do. What then do you make of what Sir Ian McKellen's been saying?
Well, it's been fascinating, because I don't understand why Ian McKellen, who's being interviewed about his new film, decided that he wanted to offer an opinion about the Queen, because he's very much an establishment figure, whether he likes it or not. He is a companion of honour, he's a knight, he's one of our leading actors. And he gave this interview to the Times, and it was quite extraordinary, actually, because he laid into the Queen, and he said that she was basically insane by the end. And you're thinking, she may have been many things, but she was not insane. And I think that she was absolutely focused, I mean, right up to the end. You see that picture of her greeting Liz Truss. That's a woman who's very much somebody who is on her A game. But yeah, I mean, Ian McKellen has a right to his own opinions, but I don't think I would agree with them.
Alex, just one final question. We're running out of time. Just quickly, there has been lots of talk about Harry trying to get back into the royal fold, come back to this country. Been denied, obviously. But lots of people, including viewers this morning, are saying, I'd never have Harry back because of what he put his grandmother through in her final years. Do you understand that sentiment?
I mean, I don't think people want Harry back full stop. I mean, I don't think there's any need for this country to have Prince Harry back in it. I mean, he's behaved so disgracefully and so appallingly. Not just... Essentially, you could argue that he's been manipulated by his wife. You could argue that he's essentially just a poor little lost boy who's found a far more confident and far more intelligent woman who's taken charge. This might very well be true. But yes, I think he has caused his entire family stress and misery. And I think that you look at the Queen and you look at the fact that she was obviously in her final years unable to have the peace that she needed. But I mean, you look at Harry now and you just think, OK, he has made his bed in Montecito and he can lie in it. And I don't think anybody would want him to be coming back to the royal family, because all that's going to do is to cause yet more chaos, yet more discord and yet more difficulty.
I think that's a very valid point, very nicely put. Alex Larman, good to see you. Thanks very much indeed.
You too, thanks very much.
Thank you. All right, OK, still to come. Aidan has your sports, and that's all next. This is GB, and the sport is very fighty this morning, let's be honest. This is GB News. We'll see you very soon.
If you want your news to be straight talking... This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them. They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News. Britain's news channel.
Many happy memories, and 9 in 10 Brits say certain foods evoke feelings of childhood nostalgia, with the mousse-like powdered dessert, Angel Delight, the most loved. Joining us now...
surprised by that.
Yeah, what, Angel Delight?
I'm surprised it's number one. Yes, very surprised. Well, to talk us through all of this is creator of the Crazy Sexy Food podcast, Hannah Harley-Young. Morning.
Hi. I've brought a selection of things that really define my childhood, particularly the Viennetta ice cream. And I have brought you some butterscotch Angel Delight.
Yay!
I'm going to expose myself live on camera and say that I've never tried Angel Delight.
Hannah?
I know. I don't know what that says about me.
I thought that was apple puree, actually. I'm so excited. Is it good? Here we
Oh,
go.
my goodness.
Did I make it okay?
Oh, yeah. But to be fair, Hannah, it's not that hard to make.
Well,
It's
what
fine.
is it, though? That's what's so funny about Angel Delight.
It's chemicals, isn't it? It's just chemicals in a bag.
I mean, it's a load of additives, which, I mean,
Probably very
one
bad for
thing
you.
that's also really interesting about all these nostalgic foods when you look at them is that a lot of things have been discontinued over the years.
Oh, dear.
So it makes you wonder, how did this one kind of get through the cracks?
Angel Delight came out number one, didn't it?
It did come out as number one. And also sort of in the top 5 was fish and chips, something I still eat today. Fish fingers, still a staple of my diet. Mr. Whippy, in that same survey, they said that 95% of people find that a taste from their childhood will take them back more than looking at a photo. And that's something that's really interesting for me, and it's the basis of everything that I do, and the reason really why I set up Crazy Sexy Food, or one of the reasons, should I say, was that I love this concept of memories of food. You know, I've interviewed hundreds of people over the past 5 years, and when I get to that question, you actually see their face relaxing, and there's something that it evokes emotion.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
All right, Aidan's here with the sport morning. Let's talk. I mean, it's a disappointment for Jack Draper that he didn't win.
Tennis.
But heck, he was really ill.
Yeah, he was. I don't know whether it was to do with the heat. The humidity level was very, very high inside the Arthur Ashe Stadium. He was taking fluids on board, and I'm just not sure whether you can just load those fluids into your body and then go and play a high-octane game of tennis, which is hugely demanding physically anyway. And I'm not saying he brought it on himself, but I think that he maybe would manage that situation again. Having said that, go on.
Could the match not have been stopped?
It was stopped.
Phoned? Yeah, but stopped for a day.
Well, I'll tell you what was interesting, and you don't see it very often, but there was a period in the game where both players were on medical timeout, so having treatment. Yannick Sinner was suffering from a wrist problem which had to be treated. And so, in terms of the match, though, I don't think he played within himself. That's what often happens when somebody's not used to playing at semi-final or final level or the last stage of big tournaments. They often freeze a little bit. I felt he was trying a bit too hard. The unforced error level or numbers were extremely high. We hadn't seen that quite as much in the earlier rounds. Obviously, he's against the world number one now, so every mistake is punished normally. But this was unforced error, so it's slightly different. It's far too many double faults as well. But, you know, the first 2 sets were very, very close. I felt that, I mean, he got the break in the first set. He should really have capitalised on that. There were a couple of set points, excuse me, as well. But you have to look at the performance in totality. He's been much, much further in this tournament than he has been in any other tournament. His coaching with James Trotman, he's really sorted that out. He's sorted out his conditioning. He is much more of a physical specimen than he ever was. His injury record has kind of dried up. He's won tournaments earlier in the year. I think he's here to stay, I really do. He's got too many weapons.
So the thing is, Aidan, he's only 22.
Exactly.
He doesn't seem the type of personality to get his head down, this is a loss, and throw it all away.
No.
It sounds like he's going to carry on.
What do you think of his Andre Agassi get-up? That's the design is all based on the Agassi.
Is that what it is?
It is,
yeah, because he was saying...
I don't like it's too big.
I think it's too biggy as well, yeah. I think that. But the trainers as well, he was saying afterwards, I don't know how he walked around in these when he won... Well, he didn't wear it at Wimbledon because it's an all-white rule, but yeah, no. Stylistically, I think he's here to stay.
You know what I was impressed by? The fact that he tried to clean up after he'd been ill.
Yes.
Himself. He tried to clean up himself.
Well, I think the umpire...
Not many sports people would do that.
I think the umpire got a bit fed up because that area is therefore contaminated. It needs to be
I
treated.
get all that.
And it happened 3 or 4 times, and he actually mopped up with a a towel and put it in his bag, which is a little bit unbecoming. And I thought Sinner actually complained about it down at the other end of the court. But nonetheless, look at Sinner, world number one. He has a chance to reaffirm his credentials. He won the Australian Open back in January. I think the eminent rivalry now, if I was going to pick two, him and Alcaraz for the next few years, hopefully Jack Draper can maybe encroach on that. We'll see. But he's certainly had a great tournament.
Let's hope so. Let's have a look at our Paralympic medal table, should we?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, we've got to 100, as I mentioned a few times this morning. Let's have a look at it on screen if we possibly can. There we go. Where we were last week, but look at the numbers there. 100, and as you said before on the Olympics, the main event the other week, you were saying that it's the golds that matter. And look, 42 there has put Britain right up in the ascendancy behind China. As I say, China are at an advantage because they enter far more athletes into the games. But look at that, to get to three figures, and, you know, we're not over there. There's still possibilities. I mean, 16 medals in total yesterday, 6 of them gold. Dame Sarah Storey in the road race, she's 46.
She's amazing.
I mean,
I'm
I'm 46, and that is very young. We know that.
But you've not done 9 Olympics.
No, exactly. And you have to say as well, she hasn't ruled out appearing at a 10th Olympics when she'll be 50 years old in 4 years' time. Her 19th gold of her career as well. Absolutely outstanding.
Well, she was tucked in behind that leading cyclist who's, what, half her age?
Yes, I know. Well, I mean, you've seen most of the... I mean, look, I mean, in most of the other events, I mean, you're talking people who are well below half her age.
Yeah.
Poppy Maskell, 19, she won a 3rd gold in the pool, been very strong in the pool throughout, and so it's been a fantastic games. And as I say, we can hopefully get well into the hundreds. I think you said 150. I think that was a little bit ambitious.
Well, the goal was 100 to 140.
Yeah.
So we've hit the goal. We just need to get a few more now.
We also had some success in the tennis as well. Alfie Hewitt and Gordon Reid winning gold in the tennis.
Brilliant stuff.
Brilliant. That's great.
Phenomenal stuff, Aidan. Thank you very much
indeed.
We've got the papers in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
With record temperatures expected this week, how do zoos keep their cooler creatures cold? Well, at Yorkshire Wildlife Park, the polar bears are enjoying a vegetable ice block.
Polar bears, they do have quite a variety of different temperatures that they naturally do find. Once they're moving off these polar ice caps, they are in the likes of down in the areas of Canada, Hudson Bay. Naturally, they were finding polar bears in 35-degree temperatures year upon year. So they are very much used to warm temperatures and heat waves as such. What you'll tend to find is they'll go for a good swim and then go for a snooze in the shade thereafter.
Not wanting to miss out, the sea lions are treated to a huge fish lolly.
In the hot weather, it's really important to give them ice because these guys, they don't drink salt water. These pools are actually saltwater pools. They actually drink fresh water. They've got 2 freshwater pools in their house, but again, being able to provide that in their outside enclosure is also really important. So offering them ice with their fish is not only enriching, but it's actually beneficial to their welfare as well.
Other animals like the lemurs will be basking in the sun, but also cooling down with frozen sweet potato.
So we've got 3 different species of lemur here. They come in all different shapes, colours, sizes, but they are native to Madagascar. Madagascar can get quite hot, understandably, so throughout the cold months here in Yorkshire, we do give them a nice heated house all year round, but especially making sure it's nice and warm in the winter for them. And it does mean that in the hot spells as well that we're able to keep our eyes on them and try and give them things that make them a bit more comfortable with that incoming hot weather as well.
The frozen food on offer here certainly has the seal of approval on what could be the hottest day of the year.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria DiPiero, bringing you
PMQ's Live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's Live here on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates.
You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained. I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
I'm tired.
Oh dear, these two are kicking off already. It's all good natured though.
No, we're not.
The writer Emma Wolf and political commentator Jonathan Liss. Good morning to you both. Right, I want to get angry. Now.
Can we do first class stamp?
Yes, exactly. High point. They're going up by 30p.
I'm really about this. Unbelievable. Do you know how much a first class stamp costs these days? By October the 7th. Come on, this is a joke. Does first class ever mean first class? No, it doesn't. A first class stamp in a few weeks will be £1.65. It's ridiculous.
Shocking.
But come on, to put a stamp up by 30p in one go.
I think it's a disgrace.
I hate to say it, but I remember when they were like, 21p for a thingy and 19p for a second class.
My point with this story, Jonathan, is I've got no idea how much first class stamp is because I...
£1.65.
Because I don't send things in the post anymore.
That's the problem, yeah.
And most people don't, and that's the problem with this. That's why if you don't use it, you lose it.
Well, it's that problem, isn't it, where you have a public service, but a public service that people aren't using, so there's a statutory need to have a postal service, but if people aren't using it, how much should the government subsidise, how much should the users subsidise? We have this argument, this discussion with train fares as well. What should the balance be? I agree with you, Emma, that £1.65, so someone who hasn't bought a stamp in probably at least 12 years,
used to be the price of a book
the Queen's Diamond Jubilee, then that does sound quite shocking. That's half a flat white, my God.
Oh, God, you're so...
Oh, my goodness.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it to wind people up, as you know perfectly well. Look, I haven't sent a letter in a long time. I send, so it's... if people were sending more letters, then obviously...
I send letters all the time.
There's a few things.
Yeah, will you stop writing to me like that? It's not good.
Stamps have stayed the same, to be fair.
85p. No, but there's a few things. A, the Royal Mail are rubbish. People are still sending a lot of stuff. There are parcels everywhere, but they haven't really kind of got into that. There's competition. It's a bad service, so why would you send something guaranteed for the next day when it doesn't get there for the next day? And also... email, WhatsApp. Why would we bother writing letters when we can just all of it?
Even like the kids today, emails seem incredibly old-fashioned.
Exactly, email does seem old-fashioned.
I haven't emailed a friend for about 10 years.
Exactly. So, who's going to pay that?
I'm very modern, Stephen.
You're so modern. What irritates us the most, Jonathan, according to the Daily Star?
I actually really like this story. So the Daily Star is reporting about the bugbears that we have. The 15 biggest bugbear. First one is people pushing the queue.
Yeah.
Second is needing a toilet but can't find a public loo. All the way down to drivers not saying thank you and you let them out at a junction. I kind of get annoyed about all of these, actually.
Yeah.
But I would also add people hogging the pavement. And the escalators. Especially when you live in London. If you walk to when you walk on a narrow pavement and there's a couple in front, I get it, you're in a couple. And also, I'll tell you another thing that annoys me. People who swing their arms back and forth. When they walk. There's no biological...
Or jab their umbrella quite aggressively under their arm, and you think, well, that is a loaded weapon.
Yeah,
what are you doing with your umbrella?
Absolutely. It's just that people not having awareness. It's people not having awareness of the space around. But particularly when you are walking and there's someone who's swinging their arms, that's like you could do.
I think we should have a fast lane.
Arm-shaming.
But a fast lane and a slow lane for people walking down the road.
Oh yeah, but I bet you go
What
about 100
annoys
miles
me
an hour.
more than anything, and I regularly think about starting a campaign, is those motorbikes and cars that have got souped-up engines. And I know there's a level of decibels that you're not allowed to exceed. And the cars that accelerate up and down the streets and the motorbikes that go up and down the streets in the evenings, in the mornings, imagine having those people living in your street coming in. The noise that just winds me up more than anything, and I regularly want to report them to the police.
Right, well, there you go. Right, I want to rattle through a few. Emma in the Express this morning. Sir Ian McKellen should give back his gong.
Yeah, well, you did touch on this earlier. You were saying he's incredibly...
He's very rude the times I've been with him.
So the veteran actor has been criticised for making quite a snide attack, I think, on the beloved, Queen. He's been saying that towards the end of her life, she was quite mad, that he thinks she was very rude. When she gave him his gong...
Hot kettle.
She said, you've been doing this a long time. And then she said, do people still go to the theatre? Which he took umbrage at, basically.
That's rude. I think that was just her making conversation.
Yeah,
I think so. You know, she has to make conversation with all sorts of people. She said, you know, do people still go to the theatre? Perfectly valid comment. Anyway, he's doing interviews to publicise his latest movie, The Critic.
And he thought he'd slag off the Queen.
Yeah, and he's also been pretty rude about other royals.
To be a little bit fair to him, he has just suffered a major injury.
So what? It's got nothing to do with it.
I mean, a chance to be rude.
No, I mean, no, I wouldn't have chosen those particular comments probably, but I think, you know, I don't think it's going to change anyone's opinion of the Queen. He's entitled to his opinion as much as anyone else.
Well, yes, he is, but I mean...
I think he also hand back
he said about the King...
No, I don't think he needs to hand back his gong, but he needs to be able to take a bit of backlash.
He's one of our greatest actors.
However, when it comes to getting publicity, it certainly works. We're talking about it.
Yeah,
all right, we're down to the last 30 seconds. Jonathan, in the Daily Star, what do we need to do to maintain our eternal youth?
Eat slugs, not eat them.
Oh, good.
But they made their slimy.
Smear our faces.
I'll tell you, it's mucin. It's mucin. It's full of antioxidants and it encourages collagen in your skin. So those snail.
Will you stop gesturing at me while you're saying
no,
that?
girly thing. It's a girly thing. Have you not had those face masks that are like snail extract, mucin, whatever?
Please do send
so
your
you've
got
to let slugs and then crawl over your face, basically.
It's really rich in antioxidants, Stephen.
Well, that's your
Did you do it?
And that, yeah, I've been sent those really.
Has this
bee
been
pollen.
verified? It was just like one report.
Bee pollen I've had in face creams and things, and that stuff is very rich and very
A lot of this
kind of
is
intensive.
snake oil, though, isn't it?
Any case, I just want to read this message.
I like the pun.
CB, I reckon Wolf and Liz have a crush on one another.
Well, we're both different sexualities, but that doesn't matter.
There's a spectrum, Emma.
There's a spectrum. All right, on that note, thank you both. Here's the weather.
Thank you.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Following a remarkably warm day yesterday, it is another very warm day in the northwest today. Cloudier elsewhere and further spells of showery rain in places. Although, having said that, actually, it's mostly dry as we start things off this Saturday morning. A lot of cloud for England and Wales, especially in the east and the south, where that cloud will be low. It'll be misty at times. Through the day, the cloud will produce a bit more rain, and that rain will be of a showery nature, but there'll be some heavy bursts. It'll feel warm wherever you are, but in Scotland, especially to the west, as well as Northern Ireland, northwest England, temperatures reaching the low to mid-20s, feeling very warm in the widespread sunny skies we're expecting there. Perhaps some sunshine coming through for North Wales, East Anglia, for example, but it's at this stage in the day where we're likely to see increasingly heavy rain starting to push north into much of southern and central England and Wales. Misty low cloud for northeast England as well as eastern Scotland, but for central and western Scotland and Northern Ireland, a beautiful day to come. Once again, just like the last couple of days, widespread blue skies, temperatures reaching the mid-20s. A degree or so down on Friday's temperatures, but still summer-like warmth, finally following a disappointing summer. But as you can see, into Saturday night, the rain becomes more extensive across much of England and Wales, and it's heavy at times. Could be some thunderstorms out there. It's going to be a muggy night with temperatures staying up at 15 to 17 Celsius. Then that rainfall, well, it's going to be pushing north across the country. It could affect the Great North Run for a time through the middle part of the day. And it's going to be heading into the central belt, but fizzling out before it gets to western Scotland and Northern Ireland. So mostly a fine day here and another warm day, not quite as warm, a bit more cloud about. Elsewhere, feeling cool under those outbreaks of showery rain.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There's an incredible
NHS, so he went all the way to Goa in India to get his dental appointment. Now, I think he probably just wanted to go on holiday, and he thought, I know, why don't I go on holiday to Goa and then get my teeth done? Look, people are travelling in their droves. There's whole aeroplanes full of people with medical tourists. Like in Turkey, you get a whole aeroplane with people with hair implants, things like that.
Well,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, I was going to go to
turkey teeth, isn't it?
turkey teeth.
Turkey
is the one.
teeth, well, now
So
we've got
that's
it.
when they strip the tooth down and you have these little pegs.
Yes, they strip them down, but in many cases, they strip them down far too low, so the nerve is exposed and it gets infected, and it's exposed to the elements, so you get infection in the tooth, and then you have to essentially take them all off. But by then, the infection spreads so far. I was getting my nails done the other day, which I don't do very often, and my nail technician said to me, "Is your dad still a dentist?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Please, can I have an emergency appointment?" I went to Turkey and I got my teeth done, and now they look incredible, but I'm in so much pain. They're all infected. She had 15 taken out from the top and 12 from the bottom, and it's an absolute disaster. But this is what people are feeling like they have to do.
So medical tourism doesn't always work.
No, but it shows, doesn't it, Alex, that people can't get their teeth sorted here, so they go elsewhere. Listen, do you floss, by the way?
Don't floss.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning. Calls to sack England's new manager as he rules out singing the national anthem at tonight's friendly against the Republic of Ireland.
Yeah, Lee Carsley admits he struggles with singing God Save the King after playing football for Ireland dozens of times.
Well, meanwhile, on the same day, the Prime Minister is in Dublin to meet the Taoiseach, Simon Harris, as Labour look to strengthen EU relations.
And tomorrow marks 2 years, incredibly, since the Queen's death. In honour of her legacy, the government announces a memorial.
Oasis may have angered fans with ticket prices, but not enough to stop them from returning to the top of the music charts for the first time in more than a decade.
And Britain's annual Viking Festival gets underway to mark the anniversary of the Battle of Largs.
There was heartache at Flushing Meadow for Britain's Jack Draper. He endured a severe bout of illness on court before losing out to world #1 Yannick Sinner at the US Open. We look ahead to England's Nations League clash with the Republic of Ireland in Dublin, and it's ton up for our Paralympians who reached 100 medals in Paris.
The weekend is here. Will we keep the summer-like warmth in the northwest? Will we keep the wet weather in the south? Or will it all change once again? I'll have the full forecast coming up very soon.
It's just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is GB News Breakfast. And I hope you're having a wonderful weekend out there, because it is indeed the weekend.
You're very excitable this morning in the last hour.
I'm working with you, Stephen. What's not to be
yeah.
excited about? However, I think calling me mad is actually probably fairly accurate, to be honest with you.
You are, yeah.
Yeah.
Crackers, but in a good way. In a good way.
What's wrong with being in a good mood? It's a weekend. People are having a lovely weekend out there, hopefully, you know, doing nice things,
I still haven't paid attention, I'm sad to say, to Aidan McGivern about the weather. So I don't know what to do, because yesterday it was really unpleasantly sticky and warm.
It was very moist, wasn't it?
Very moist. Very moist.
Moist is not a good word for weather.
My brother's having a barbecue this afternoon.
Oh, is he?
Yeah,
Oh, really?
So I'm hoping the weather will hold off. But I think if it's cloudy...
Is this the brother who charges you to turn off?
No, that's the other one. Don't speak to him anymore. But no, if it's cloudy and not rainy...
Your brother charges you?
A few years ago, yeah, when the days when we were talking, he charged me $5 to get into his barbecue. It was either that or bring your own meat.
Right.
Brought my own meat, really.
I'm sure so.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
OK.
I suppose, yeah, I mean, I've mentioned it to people down the years, and they said they've encountered the same thing, even among members of the family. If you're buying beef for all these people, I guess it gets quite pricey. Yeah,
It does if you put it on
want a decent cut.
Surely the point of having a family occasion, you know, barbecue, party, whatever, is you're inviting people because you're throwing, you're hosting. Hosting is the word.
Yeah, that's the way I would look at it as well.
Yeah.
But not in certain sections of my family, no.
Oh, dear.
Wow.
Oh, trouble at mill. Trouble at mill.
In any case, I'm going to pay Aidan, because you have been a bit mean to Aidan this morning, I'm going to pay Aidan a compliment on air because he's wearing a beautiful, beautiful blue jacket. Looks absolutely lovely. And he's doing it just for me.
Thanks very much.
And I've not been mean. I'm just pointing out that, because it's our main news this morning, that the England manager, Lee Carsley, is saying he will not sing the national anthem at his first game, leading the team against Ireland later today, is a disgrace.
Yeah, well, Carsley, who previously played 40 times for Ireland, will be leading the England senior team for the first time in the caretaker manager. But it's not exactly a flying start, is it, Aidan?
No, not necessarily, but I'll tell you what this will do. As of today, this is a line in the sand. This is going to be taken very seriously in future. You're going to see players suddenly becoming enthusiastic about singing the national anthem because, believe you me, it's not been that an important issue for players down the years. You get some like Terry Butcher, Stuart Pearce, and Paul Ince who bellow it out, but there have been other ones down the years who, let's be honest, they've done a John Redwood when he was Welsh secretary and didn't even know the words. We saw that. I mean, there were players in the summer in the England lineup not singing the national anthem. It's as simple as that. And he was asked about it yesterday, Lee Carsley, and he was caught unawares, I think. And there's a rabbit in the headlines element to this as well. Sorry, rabbit in the headlights.
Yeah. Actually, it's a good Freudian slip, though, because it does actually work.
Good it didn't come out of something else. But no, he answered the question. He wouldn't have been prepared for it. He obviously wasn't briefed about it. That's because it's not a big issue in football, and there's an element of...
Big issue for the football fans.
Well, yeah, it is actually, to be fair, but I just don't think they saw it coming, and it's just an unfortunate putting the foot in whatever. But having said that, a lot of footballers don't care about it. They don't care for the dignitaries. They don't care for the paraphernalia that goes on around football. They just want to play the game. Lee Carsley didn't even sing the national anthem when he played for the Republic of Ireland 40 times. That is not important.
I'm not surprised. He's not Irish.
Well, he is. I think he's got an Irish passport, and his grandmother is Irish, so he's every right to play for them.
Born and bred in Birmingham.
Possibly, but it's how there are some people who are born in certain areas but don't necessarily have much of an affinity with that country. It's a personal thing.
I can't say he doesn't have much of an affinity with England.
Well, no, he does. He's managing the team right now, but he might be 50-50.
I mean, Henry's been in touch, said only we could have an England manager who won't sing the anthem.
I think it's just... Look, we had Mike Parry on, but there was a history of trouble in this fixture, particularly in 1995.
Yeah, but as he said, that's a totally different issue.
It's not different.
Yeah.
It's not, because the English national anthem...
He was involved with the FA at the time of that.
He had to apologise to the Prime Minister.
Yeah, but he said it's a totally different issue.
He said it's a totally different issue. I disagree with him respectfully, because... It can be incendiary. When you've got players on the pitch tonight for England who snubbed Ireland, so you've got a little bit of... Tensions are high anyway, and when you've got Lee Carsley, who played 40 times for the Republic of Ireland, I think it might be quite a diplomatic move not to sing God Save the King tonight at the Aviva Stadium.
Well, Jack Charlton back in 1966 managed to tiptoe around this issue perfectly well. Why has this caused front-page headlines?
Well, he was another one who managed the Republic of Ireland to great success, the greatest success they've ever had, which goes to show that even though he didn't sing the Irish national anthem, it's about the success you achieve on the pitch. If Lee Carsley does the business on the pitch, this will disappear in a puff of smoke.
It's the front page of The Telegraph, it's their splashes to back page of all the newspapers. I think this will stay with him. I don't think he's going to get this job.
Well, look, if he does well, he'll get the job. There's no question about that. They can't afford not to hire someone who doesn't do a good job.
Yeah.
Is that because there's no one else?
But you've got to have... Well, we all know, though, the papers turn on people.
Yes, they do, particularly England managers, yeah.
Because the papers go with what their readers want.
Yes.
And you know...
But I've only seen one columnist, Jeff Powell, the Mail, come out and say, look, he should be sacked before the game. I mean, like, goodness me.
That was quite a hard-hitting piece there, I did think that.
Yeah,
a lot of people
say, I mean, Kevin's just got in touch saying, sack the non-entity who is managing England.
Well, that's another story. I mean, you could argue that because he doesn't have much pedigree in coaching or management so far. Well, in coaching, you could argue he has because he managed the under-21s to formidable success. But... it's about what he does on the pitch. Declan Rice, any of those other players, if they perform well, irrespective of their ties to Ireland or any other country, they will be honoured and appreciated by the country they are representing on the night. And that is just how it's always been in football. Jack Charlton never sung the Irish national anthem. He got booed at Wembley when he used to come back for one-off events when he was the Republic of Ireland manager. But we all look back on Jack Charlton's time with England, World Cup winner, and the most successful manager the Republic of Ireland ever had. And that's hopefully how it will be for Lee Carsley if he does well.
In any case, I just want to say as a football fan, this competition, it's like la-la, whatever. Can we just have proper football? Can we just have the Premiership back? And the Championship? And the other leagues?
Yeah, I mean, creating the Nations League was designed to cut down on friendlies. But no one's really grasped them.
No, it's not very friendly, is it?
No, well, no.
It's not very friendly between you two. You talk about boxing.
We've got history, don't we?
Yeah, we've got history. JD says, if Lee doesn't want to sing the national anthem, he should go and work elsewhere because we do care.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe. I think it will be a bit of a wake-up call to the FA. I'm not saying it isn't an important issue. I just don't think it should be.
I was just...
Safety man says Stephen 1, McGee 0.
Yeah, no, there's lots of... Yeah, I mean, Aidan, I'm sorry, it's not hashtag Team Aidan.
Well, sorry,
but gbnews.com/USA. If you're hashtag Team Aidan, let us know, please, because I'm starting to feel sorry for him. He's wearing a lovely blue jacket just for me, because I nagged him for wearing greige.
Yeah, well, keep your thoughts coming through on that one. Aidan, thank you very much indeed. See you a little bit later on.
Thank you, Aidan.
Right, let's have a look at the Prime Minister, shall we? Because, oddly enough, he's in Ireland today. He's meeting the Taoiseach, Simon Harris.
There's a lot of it about. The pair will discuss resetting UK-Irish relations. Northern Ireland Secretary Hilary Benn hails a new chapter between the two nations.
So, is this Starmer's way of strengthening EU relations? Former Labour advisor Mike Buckley is in Sheffield. Good to see you, Mike, as always. What is this visit actually all about? I mean, Prime Ministers haven't been to Ireland, actually, the last 3 or 4 haven't been. So why does Keir Starmer feel that it's important for him to go at this stage?
I mean, I think it's appalling that the last 3 or 4 didn't go, quite frankly, because, I mean, we're a close country, we're a sister nation to Ireland. We still have free movement with Ireland, obviously. There's a lot of interplay between the two, people going back and forth. As you were just talking about the English manager, lots of people have got both passports, indeed. People have got family history in Ireland. They're a close trading partner as well. I think there's £85 billion worth of trade goes back and forth between the two countries. There's lots of agricultural produce goes back and forth between the two countries. Of course, there's the border in between Northern Ireland and Ireland. So it's incredibly important that a British Prime Minister goes and has conversation with them. And it is also part of a wider reset with the EU. So obviously, he's been to capitals already, Paris and Berlin. David Lammy's been to capitals, Foreign Secretary. Nick Thomas-Symonds, I know, who is the Cabinet Office Minister in charge of the UK-Europe relationship. I know that he's been to Brussels and probably some European capitals as well. So there is a charm offensive from the new British government, really to say to the EU, to EU nations, look, we're your friends. We would like to have a closer, more productive relationship. We would like to move on from the animosity of the past. And turning up and having a cup of tea with somebody is one of the ways to do that.
Mike, a lot of people, a lot of viewers are saying, resetting. Is that another way of saying going back to the EU with a begging bowl and trying to get back in bed with them?
No, not at all. I mean, Starmer's been very, very clear that there's no going back to the EU, to the single market, to the customs union, to freedom of movement, because the country voted the way that it voted. And also, quite frankly, he doesn't want to spend his government having that conversation and that argument all over again. But it is the case that the Boris Johnson government got us a really, really bad deal with the EU, which is doing harm to companies across this country who can't trade as they formerly could. And it would be good for the UK if we could get a better agreement. And I think that's the goal that Keir Starmer has. So it's not about going back to where we were before, but it is about moving on to something better than we have right now.
Yeah, but it's that by the back door issue, isn't it, that is going to concern a lot of people?
I don't know whether people really are concerned, because, politics really has moved on. People are concerned about the cost of living crisis. They're concerned about climate change. They're concerned about young people's education. They're concerned about the NHS and policing. People have got a long list of concerns, and Brexit doesn't really...
Interestingly, Mike, in that long list, you didn't mention immigration.
Immigration is a concern for some people in this country, but it comes under all of those things that I mentioned right there. It is a big concern for quite a small number of people, but for the vast majority of people in this country, it doesn't feature in their top 10 list of concerns. Partly because people, as I say, have got other things to worry about, and also because I think a lot of people understand that we need inward migration of people from working age in this country, because we don't have enough people of working age to fill all the gaps that we have in the labour market and in public services. And I think people rightly do want action on small boats because it's unsafe for the people crossing. We've got to have a better solution. But people, I think, are giving this government some space and some time to work out what the solution to that one is, given the last government.
Mike, sorry, lovely. Are you saying that immigration isn't... You know, Yvette Cooper says smash the gangs at least once a day at the moment, from what I can work out. We've seen people in Dublin campaigning outside our immigration hotels that have just been suddenly dumped in their midst, full of young men. I mean, it is a big issue. We can't deny that.
We do. I mean, what I said in terms of the fact that immigration is a very important issue for quite a small proportion of the British population is true. And if you look at the stats, if you ask people what the top 10 things that they're concerned about are, immigration doesn't feature in that top 10. For people for whom it is important, it's very, very high on their list. if you see what I mean. So there's a small number of people in this country for whom it's a very, very important issue. People, you're right, they do want action on asylum seekers in this country. And one thing, I mean, the last government, as you know, stopped processing claims. That's why there are so many people, about 80,000 people stuck in hotels and temporary accommodation in this country, because people were still coming and the numbers were being racked up because they just weren't being dealt with. This government is now dealing with those claims. Those people are being processed. They're either genuine refugees, they go and live their lives in society, get a job like the rest of us, or if they're not, then the government will seek to return them to where they came from, and that's the right thing to do. And if not, then those people will have to stay in temporary accommodation until they can go back to where they came to. But the problem with the small boats, obviously it's not an easy problem to solve. Yvette Cooper's quite right. We need to smash the gangs that are causing this problem. What also needs to happen is that people are still going to come to the coast in Calais. There's clearly lots of people who still want to come to the UK because they've got family here or ties here, or they just believe this is a good place to bring up their family. Those people still need to be dealt with somewhere because they're going to try and get to the UK somehow. So I'm not quite sure what the government's solution is to the problem that those people are still going to come. What's going to happen to them?
OK, Mike, good to see you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks very much indeed. I don't think that washes. It's. I mean, look, Mike was referring to some polling, and we don't know what that polling was.
No.
But so we can't just say it's nonsense.
No. But I did have a quick search. I couldn't find any polling that came up with that, but that was just a very, very quick search. But I mean, I do think it's a big issue, and I think that's why we are hearing from Labour on a daily basis now, because they realise it's a big issue too.
Oh, I think it's a bit. Well, it's a big issue for I think for a lot of people.
Yes.
Whether it's the majority of people in the country, I don't know, but certainly a substantial amount of people are worried about it. I mean, it was all that was talked about during the election.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's going to get more and more important because we don't seem to be doing. Even France have said, well, everyone wants to go to the UK because you're a soft touch. The French Interior Minister said that, and he might have a point. Germany are cracking down. They're saying if you come to our country, we're going to give you bed, bread and a bar of soap, and then you're going off back where you came from.
Oh, possibly to Rwanda for processing.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the Rwanda we paid for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all...
I hope we kept the receipt on that one.
Yeah. Anyway, keep your thoughts coming through on that, gbnews.com/you'll say. Let's have a look at some of the other stories heading into the newsroom.
A man who took part in the riots in Rotherham last month has received the longest prison sentence handed out by judges following the widespread violence. Thomas Burley, aged 27, has been jailed for 9 years after pleading guilty to a charge of arson with intent to endanger life, 1 count of violent disorder and possession of an offensive weapon.
The Israeli Defence Force is facing questions after soldiers opened fire in the West Bank, killing a 26-year-old US-Turkish woman. Asenur Ezgi Aigi, an American citizen, was taking part in a Jewish protest, against a Jewish settlement expansion. The US Secretary of State called Aigi's death a tragic loss. American officials are now looking at what exactly happened.
Yeah. And meanwhile, the Royal Navy has named 31-year-old Lieutenant Rodri Layton as the serviceman killed in a night flying training exercise in the English Channel earlier this week. On Wednesday, a Merlin Mark IV helicopter crashed off the coast of Dorset with 3 crew members on board, including Lieutenant Layton. His family have described him as immeasurably loved by his parents, siblings, partner and friends. Oh, that's such a sad story.
It is. It's tragic. Colin says they keep talking about, our last guest, they keep talking about we need immigration to fill vacancies. Yet we have 1.5 million immigrants unemployed.
Well, this is the thing I can't get my head round.
I don't know. I don't understand that either. And when there are... I mean, I don't know what the unemployment figures are in the UK. I know statistically they're pretty good, but it still must be, 500,000 or...
There are lots of people not in work at the moment. The issue I do have with these figures, though, is that these figures include older people who stopped working, took early retirement, if you like, during the pandemic, decided, right, I can afford not to go back to work, so they haven't done so. But they're not a drain on the economy. They're not claiming benefits. And before anyone shouts at me, your pension is not a benefit, by the way. So they're not, they're classified as not working because they're under the age of 66, but they're not a drain on the economy either.
No.
But I'm really sick of people having a go at older people at the moment. And it's possibly because I'm coming up to zero birthday. But...
Zero birthday, big one.
Stop it. But stop it.
Our pension, the pension's not a benefit. No, I understand why you say it, but what you have to bear in mind is pensions are classed as a benefit because they come out of the benefits budget.
Yeah, I
so
know,
when we talk about how much we pay out in benefits, that includes pensions. No, but it's important because you see the benefits budget go up, and the majority of that is pensions.
Picky.
No, but it's facts, darling.
Just picky.
Facts.
Just picky.
It's not saying it is a benefit. You've contributed to it.
We're going to pay attention now because we haven't all morning. Aidan, with the weather.
Are we?
We haven't paid any attention, have we?
I need a loo break, though.
Too much information. Let's hope it's not raining too heavily because that's not going to help your bladder, is it?
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Following a remarkably warm day yesterday, it is another very warm day in the northwest today. Cloudier elsewhere and further spells of showery rain in places. Although, having said that, actually it's mostly dry as we start things off this Saturday morning. A lot of cloud for England and Wales, especially in the east and the south where that cloud will be low. It'll be misty at times. Through the day, the cloud will produce a bit more rain, and that rain will be of a showery nature, but there'll be some heavy bursts. It'll feel warm wherever you are, but in Scotland, especially to the west, as well as Northern Ireland, northwest England, temperatures reaching the low to mid-20s, feeling very warm in the widespread sunny skies we're expecting there. Perhaps some sunshine coming through for North Wales, East Anglia, for example, but it's at this stage in the day where we're likely to see increasingly heavy rain starting to push north into much of southern and central England and Wales. Misty low cloud for northeast England as well as eastern Scotland, but for central and western Scotland and Northern Ireland, a beautiful day to come. Once again, just like the last couple of days, widespread blue skies, temperatures reaching the mid-20s. A degree or so down on Friday's temperatures, but still summer-like warmth, finally following a disappointing summer. But as you can see, into Saturday night, the rain becomes more extensive across much of England and Wales, and it's heavy at times. Could be some thunderstorms out there. It's going to be a muggy night with temperatures staying up at 15 to 17 Celsius. Then that rainfall, well, it's going to be pushing north across the country. It could affect the Great North Run for a time through the middle part of the day. And it's going to be heading into the central belt, but fizzling out before it gets to western Scotland and Northern Ireland. So mostly a fine day here, and another warm day, not quite as warm, a bit more cloud about. Elsewhere, feeling cool under those outbreaks of showery rain.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, did you remember to watch the weather forecast?
I didn't. I'm sorry.
And you know why?
Pensions.
You forgot. And that's because you're nearly 80.
Oh!
That big O birthday.
I'm not the one
with
with
the big 8-0.
I'm not the one with a weak bladder who needs to go to the toilet all the time. Am I? No, but you keep going. I need to go to the wee now, Mum. Please can we go to the wee?
Mum? You're not that much older than me.
I started young.
Yeah. No, it's not that young. Not that young. There's only 9 years between us. Come on.
9 years, 10 months.
Right, let's crack on with the money, should we? The big money, because we're giving away £36,000. And if you want to have a chance to win it, here's how you do it.
You could be the next Great British Giveaway winner with a whopping £36,000 in tax-free cash in your bank account. Imagine getting the winning phone call for that.
You never expect to win.
It was unexpected, of course. I only put in one little entry.
I blocked the phone number to start with.
I always say get your entries in. And if I can win it, anybody can win it.
For another chance to win £36,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost...
Which I do. I always get a lucky dip just as I'm about to run out of my...
Oh, really?
Yeah. Funny that.
You cynic. Right, coming up, we're going to tell you how the Prime Minister is paying his respects to Queen Elizabeth 2 years on tomorrow from her passing.
That's it.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
Angela, what have we got?
Hello, there's an awful lot, but I think the main interesting thing is that Prince Harry said a week or so, 2 weeks ago, I think it was, that he absolutely wasn't going to go to his uncle's funeral because there wasn't enough protection for him. His uncle, Lord Fellows, was married to Jane Spencer, who was Diana's sister, who was the most practical and helpful of the three children, the three girls, and she's done an awful lot for Harry. I thought it was just terrible. He wasn't going to go there, but he has been there. They didn't talk to William. William didn't talk to him. Did he get any protection? Who knows? And if he didn't, if he takes the government to court yet again, they would say, well, look, we managed without that, but we don't know about that. But also the paper, the magazine that does loads for Harry and Meghan, they were the ones who said he wasn't going, so they said what he wanted them to say.
He doesn't need any protection. I mean, how did he get there? Probably in a Bombardier private jet that gives off 60 times more carbon than anybody else.
Yes, well, we don't know about that. The good thing was that he was there, and of course today is Remembrance Day for Diana, the day she died. So that he went there and he was with her side of the family, and I think that that's very good and might help him feel a bit better about things.
But neither of them are doing well out of it. William is not doing well out of it. Harry is not doing well out of it. The King is not doing well out of it. Meghan Markle's not doing well out of it. Why can't they just...
No, I don't think it's that easy. I think that they might do much worse if they were together again.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Stephen's just confessed that he appears to be wearing a girdle.
I'm not actually wearing a girdle, no. But I was trying to establish, what do you call those pants that women wear that pull you in?
Shapewear. Is it? You call it
there's a thing. I don't know, because a lot of my friends that I used to work with who are ladies used to say, oh, I've got me thingies on.
But that's not a corset, is it? It's a shape with shapewear. I think the modern day phrase is shapewear.
Basically knickers with very tight elastic. I don't know. I can't remember.
You're not into ladies' knickers, are you?
No, oddly enough, no. No.
Oh, right.
Not unless we've got guests and I've got to peg them on the line, but apart from that, that's as far as it goes. You know what I'm talking about, those pants.
Have we passed the watershed yet? Yeah.
Spanx.
Spanx. No, that's a brand name.
Oh, is that a brand?
Yeah, shapewear.
Oh, right.
We call it shapewear.
I've got my Spanx on today.
Yeah. Yeah, good, yeah.
Don't think they do them for men, do they?
Yeah, they do.
Do they?
No, they do. They do. Yeah, no, yeah. Well, there's kind of unisex, so you can wear them. You can wear them whatever. Don't look at me like that, please.
That's the way forward. But no, I'm going to follow Steve Miller's thing and go, no, I'm not going to pretend and try and suck it all in. I'm going to, you have to stick to that diet, like he was saying. Stick to the diet.
Take responsibility for your own health, yes.
Got to do it. I need to be a bit more careful.
No, you're very good. You've been very good this morning.
I don't eat or anything at work.
No, absolutely. No, I can't. I can't concentrate and eat at the same time. It's multitasking. I'm not very good at that.
Yeah. Anyway, should we crack on with what this is tomorrow.
Yes,
isn't it?
I know.
It's the anniversary.
Yes. And we're both working tomorrow as well. I'm going to be quite sad, actually, because I actually covered... OK, it's 2 years tomorrow since Queen Elizabeth passed away. I can't believe it. And that happened of a beloved Balmoral. The Prime Minister has paid tribute to the late monarch's enduring legacy of service and devotion to our country.
Well, he has announced a new national memorial in her honour. It's going to be in St James's Park, so... quite close to Buckingham Palace. Earlier we spoke to journalist of The Spectator, Alex Larman.
After her death, it's all about finding the right place for it and doing it in the right way. And I think that, as you say, what we don't want is some sort of abstract thing, which is just ridiculous, because that's not what anybody wants. That's not a tribute to her. And, I mean, the one in Rutland isn't bad, actually, because, OK, that's not going to be the full formal thing, but... I think there's a lot of potential for it to go wrong because it depends who's involved in picking it, where it's going to go and how it's going to be done. And I think it's going to be absolutely essential. But it conveys every aspect of her, and that's hard in a statue because, you look at the famous statue of Churchill in the Cenotaph, and that's a really good example of who he was. And you look at that and you think, that is Winston Churchill. That is a fitting legacy of him. So with this, it's going to be very difficult because obviously... what age of the Queen do you portray? Do you portray the young Queen, the person who came to the throne unprepared on the death of her father and changed the monarchy? Do you present the middle-aged Queen, the person who was going through, unimaginable turmoil in Britain? Or do you portray the older Queen? And so that's a hard decision that someone's going to have to make.
But actually, Alex, I think that's an easy decision. I think you go for the older Queen, because this is commemorating her reign and the full length of it, and that gives you an opportunity to have that twinkle in the eye and that image of her that we've come to know and love over recent years.
Oh yeah, I mean, when I think about the Queen, it's always with the twinkle in her eye. It's the first thing I think about.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, I mean, that's what, she is so much missed because you look at the 2 years since she died, they have not been great years for the royal family. There's been illness, there's been a sense of slight chaos, I think, especially in the last few months, a sort of drift away from what these things should be. And I think that when you look back on her extraordinarily long, extraordinarily distinguished reign, as an example of that's what should have been. That's the person who ultimately was the greatest monarch in this country's history.
Alex,
and that's something that we...
sorry, Alex, I'm so glad you said that because you literally took that thought right out of my mind. Lots of people are saying that. Since we lost the Queen, everything seems to have gone a bit wrong.
Well, I mean, she managed the firm, and I think that's the best way of looking at it. But she and the Duke of Edinburgh, who I think has often been an underrated figure, because we talk about Prince Philip as somebody who had his gaffes and his casual bits of racism and so forth, but actually underneath that exterior, he was a very sharp, very persistent man.
Yeah, I hope it's something substantial.
A proper statue that looks like the Queen. And I think you made a very valid point earlier on, just one, mind you, about it actually the Queen when she was older.
I think so.
Because
marking the end of her reign.
Exactly. The dedication for all those decades. I only knew the Queen. That's why whenever I sing the national anthem, which we've also talked about a lot this morning, I still say Queen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm struggling. My brain's switched to King now. It has switched.
Yeah, well, your brain works better than mine. Just.
So no, but I think the old lady Queen, dignified, twinkle.
The twinkle. She had a wicked sense of humour.
And maybe in those lovely sort of outfits she wore with the block colours and the hat and all that sort of look.
Oh God, I should have read it out. Someone earlier on suggested, rather than the corgis, what about a statue with the Queen and Paddington Bear?
It would work.
I quite like that.
It would. That was a lovely thing.
It was.
It was a lovely thing, and it also commemorates one of the last times we really saw it.
And it was that cheeky sense of humour with that twig. And before anyone goes, oh, yeah, but privilege, da-da-da-da-da, come on. She had a sense of duty that is sadly lacking, I'm sorry, sometimes these days. And she did have that sense of humour. I mean, come on, the Paddington thing.
Yeah, that was really nice. That would be really nice.
Cry.
Oh, well, let's not cry. Let's celebrate her.
Yeah,
celebrate
indeed,
her.
yeah.
Anyway, coming up, we're going to find out about... I never know it existed. The Viking Festival. So get out your horned hats. We'll tell you more in a minute.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Did you know several Paralympic GB track and field athletes aim to go for gold this summer in Paris? So aside from pure talent, a British firm has incorporated, get this, space technology in the materials of running clothes to help athletes perform at their ultimate capacity. I'm not sure if I believe this, but we'll find out in a sec. Trailblazing scientists, engineers and designers at British firm Rheon Labs have taken an idea first used in a NASA project, and they've now developed it for over 15 years at Imperial College in London.
First of all, please can you explain to us a bit more about how and what this incredible technology is?
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, our founder, Dr. Dan Plant, spent many years developing these kind of dynamic materials. That means they behave in what's called non-Newtonic way. So they don't follow the rules. Effectively, they can change their behavior depending on kind of stress or stretch you apply to it. So what you get on an athlete level, if you imagine you have a garment, it's supercharged. It's such that the garment changes its support depending on your movement or your activity or the speed at which you run.
So you're saying that it generates, what, more sort of kinetic energy, is that right?
Not quite. It makes you effectively make more out of your own energy. Spot the athletes with the wavy curves and stripes, you'll see that. So that's super polymer we have in combination with these stripes that are kind of built around the way your muscles moves.
You said the difference between first and fourth place is a fraction of a percent.
Yeah, that's the very main difference it makes. So even if you manage to kind of make more of your own energy and improve your performance by 1%, that's the difference between podium and non-podium.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, since 1980, the west coast town of Largs has celebrated its historic battle of the victory.
Victory in the Battle of Largs. Just don't lie down.
Let's just go and start this again. Forgotten where I am. Yes, they had a victory in the Battle of Largs. Did I mention that? That's the last mainland battle between the Scots and the Norse.
Right, let's see if I can do this. The annual festival has been a long day. The annual festival gives the public a glimpse into life of a 13th century Viking village.
Oh, it's brilliant. I love it. I love it. Let's talk to our Scotland reporter, Tony Maguire, who's at the heart of the action. Ooh. Oh, there you go. Right in position, Tony. What's going on there today?
Good morning. Well, indeed, I'm here in the town of Largs on the Ayrshire coast, where, as you mentioned there, 761 years ago, we saw the Battle of Largs, where King Alexander, King of Scotland, his men held firm and fought off the last ever Norse invasion from the Vikings. You see, before that time, King Harald of Norway, well, he ordered his men to come down to the Viking-held Isles of Cumbria, the Western Isles and beyond, and then start to make inroads into the mainland. That wasn't to be. A really nasty storm on the coast just behind me, well, it washed a lot of those ships ashore and the Viking forces were split. This then led, of course, to the Treaty of Perth, which was the starting where the Inner Isles and Isle of Man actually were returned back to Scotland's control, and that was kind of the start of the modern Scotland as we know it. And to celebrate that, here in the town of Largs, they hold this annual Viking festival where, think living history, where you've got your silversmiths, your armourers, even people feeding the rest of the troops who'll be involved in that big battle reenactment later on tonight, culminating with the burning of the Viking longship. Now, I've been around here for the last couple of days and I've been talking to some of the villagers, if you like. Here's what they had to say.
I was striking coins today we were making for the school kids. We've had a couple of hundred school kids in every day, really busy, and they love it, absolutely love it.
So if you think about how you play it like that, Finnish and Swedish Vikings took that from the Middle East, and then later on spread all over Europe, and someone had the bright idea of adding more.
Well, at the minute I'm stamping out arm rings, so I'm doing this one at the minute. But they used to wear the arm rings, it was the money. So they'd have many arm rings up their arm, because your arm's your bank. And then when you needed to buy something, you'd take one off, chop off as much silver you need, and you put it in your pouch.
At the moment, I'm carving just a really basic cloak pin with a dragon on it. And I'm making it a goofy dragon, because it's got its tongue hanging out here.
Some people say the Scots won it, and then the Vikings will say that it was actually a draw. But I think it's just that it's a unique piece of history which shaped this country.
Now, what we heard there was some of the villagers here, and you can see there's a real kind of festival atmosphere. There's fires going just out of shot. Actually, there's some guys cooking breakfast on what looks like a kind of traditional Viking breakfast barbecue. I think we need a modern breakfast barbecue, quite frankly. That sounds divine. But certainly over the course of today, and indeed every year henceforth, you know, the town of Largs and very much the whole Ayrshire coast celebrates this huge turning point for the modern Scotland.
Love it.
Interesting.
Find the Vikings absolutely fascinating.
Great, yeah, no, I think, yeah.
I wish I was up there with you, Tony. I've got to be, got to be honest. Do us a favour, grab us one of those arm rings, and I'll send you the money.
And the weather looks lovely as well.
Yeah. I hope he does. I hope he genuinely does, because I really... If you watch... we watched Vikings, 18 months ago. It's a show on Prime. It's a fantastic...
I haven't watched that.
It's very brutal. It's really, really brutal. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's fantastic drama.
I might watch it.
It's really, really good.
I think we might have some Viking blood in our family, to be honest with you. We did one of those, our DNA tests, and it came back mostly London and the South East, but a little bit of Viking blood in there as well. Well, I mean, Scandinavia, somewhere along the line.
Yeah, there's such a Ragnar Rothbrok in there somewhere.
What?
Oh, he was like the... Oh, yeah. Oh, right, you've got to watch it. It's based on real people that existed.
OK, I'm going to watch it. Well, we did go to Denmark and we went to see one of the original Viking ships and read all about the raping and the pillaging and stuff.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. Fascinating stuff. Yeah. Anyway, less of that and more of this, because Aidan McGee's going to be looking ahead to the biggest sporting events of the weekend in a couple of...
You're not going to start a fight again, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
A window cleaner is battling to prove he has the only portrait of William Shakespeare made in his lifetime.
Yes, so owner Stephen Wadlow has been trying to validate the painting for years. He's had it x-rayed, he's had it analysed by experts, he's had it scientifically dated back to 1595 when the playwright was 31 years old. If it is the Bard, it could be worth north of £200 million.
Steve, welcome to GB News. First of all, just explain how you came to have this painting in your possession.
It was sat there all my lifetime sort of thing while I was growing up, above the television in the corner. It was only back about 12 years ago that a visitor, she said, oh, I think it looks like William Shakespeare, you know, I like your copy of William Shakespeare, and was shocked to see it was an original painting. So it was only then that I started researching, and different institutions have helped with the x-rays and all the rest of it. But then is it actually Shakespeare? Well, all the facial comparisons, technology, everything like that, all matches with the Droschau, which is the only known 2D image of Shakespeare. And who do you go to find that out?
There's a suggestion in the Sun's write-up of this story that you've been struggling to be heard in the academic world, the lofty art world. It's all a bit snooty. Yes. It's about who you know, and you're a tradesman.
Yes, yes. That is definitely true in some avenues, but then I have to say, and it's lovely to be able to have this opportunity to say it, there's other people in that world that have been fabulous. It's taken a long time to sort of get listened to. We want the discussion out there because all the evidence that we've got indicates that this really should be discussed.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates.
You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
All right, Aidan's got the sport for us. Good morning.
Good morning again.
Jack Draper.
Long time no see. Yes, Jack Draper.
Play nice.
Jack Draper, look, I stayed up and watched the match last night. The first two sets were quite close. He was well in contention, and it got away from him in the third set. Now, there were issues in terms of health because he was sick.
He was really... I mean, he was vomiting.
I felt towards the end, I don't know if you thought it as well, he looked as if he was a bit sort of washed out by the end of it. He was lacking a bit of power, his movement wasn't so great. There was too many unforced errors, Stephen. I mean, there were so many double faults. I don't know if that would have been as a result of the illness specifically, but he was playing... I wouldn't say playing within himself, he was almost trying a bit too hard. There were so many shots that went long. There were so many kind of speculative efforts, which I think you have to be a bit more on point when you're up against the world #1 and the Australian Open champion. But mind you have to say that it's a fantastic performance over the course of the tournament. I mean, he's never been that far or anywhere close to that deep into a Grand Slam tournament. And he's been improving year on year, but he has had injury problems. James Trotman, his new coach, is clearly a huge influence on him. You can hear him from the sidelines, bellowing instructions and keeping right on side with him. And he's had conditioning coaching as well. He's had Wayne Ferreira, the former South Africa tennis player who was quite active in the 90s and early 2000s. He's been in his camp as well. So I think you're going to see someone who's going to hang around for quite a long time. It was a little bit unedifying last night when 3 times he vomited on the court. He was cleaning up with his towel. He put it in his bag. The umpire eventually... And with the intervention of Yannick Sinner on the other end of the court, I don't know if it was gamesmanship because he was also receiving some treatment for a wrist injury. But she said, look, enough's enough. Someone's got to come along and clean the area, treat the area.
Yes.
Which I think is a fair point. If it was blood, for example, or anything else, then we would be looking to clear it up. But look, he has to look back in totality and think, that was one hell of a performance, and who knows, he's got something to go for now.
He's 22.
He's 22,
exactly.
A long
way to go.
I remember interviewing his dad, actually. He was quite high. He was head of he was CEO at the LTA for a few years. I wonder what the connection was.
I'm not taking anything about what he's achieved, but, I mean, it is amazing how many people who make it big in the world of tennis have a parent involved in the world of tennis.
Tennis is one of those sports, it's quite elitist. Unless they make inroads into working-class schools, they are not going to get... Then we're never going to achieve what the Americans do, for example, in tennis, or possibly the Spaniards as well.
Yeah, I know, it's what puts me off. I hate to say it. It does put me off a bit that everyone's a bit posh and they've all got tennis mums and all that.
Yeah, I know. Look, the issue is that, most inner-city schools just haven't got the space for tennis courts, have they? That's what it comes down to.
But they haven't got the space for football pitches these days.
Anymore. Yeah, true. That's a good point. Good point. Yeah. Should we talk about the Paralympics? Have we got time?
Yes, we have.
So, look, great day yesterday. 16 medals, 6 of them gold. We did have some joy in the tennis, in the wheelchair tennis doubles, Alfie Hewitt and Gordon Reid. winning the gold. And if we look at the medals table, which I think we've just got to hand now, we can take a look at just how well we are faring, because we're right up to 100. I think we're behind China. Have we got the table or not? Maybe we'll get it in a moment. But yeah, there we are.
Yeah.
So China in first place. Well, we're roughly where we were this time last week, except obviously the total has gone up. But yeah, 42 golds, a total of 100 medals. More to come. We've got the event doesn't finish until tomorrow, and we've had huge success in the pool as well. Poppy Maskell, 19-year-old, winning a third gold of the event, and a mention for Dame Sarah Story as well. She won the gold in the road race, and at the age of 46.
So what's she got now? 19.
19 golds, phenomenal. She's 46.
It's amazing,
and she has not ruled out participating at the next Paralympics back here,
and she switched sports. 50. She switched sports, didn't she, as well? Swimming to cycling.
Yeah, she's done a few. I mean, she's done. I mean, she was active 9 games ago. When does that take us back to? Probably about. It's got to be Atlanta, surely, isn't it?
It was 92.
92, Barcelona.
I think was her first one.
Yeah, 96 was Atlanta, so yeah.
Extraordinary.
I think it was 92, because I was 18 and she's 4 years old.
I'll have to check what the record is.
She'd have been 14.
14?
Yeah.
Wow, 46 now. Yeah, I'm the same age as her. I remember that. I was 14 in the summer of 1992,
yeah. I mean, it's phenomenal. But what were you doing in 1992? I bet you were an elite athlete.
No, I wasn't. I was playing for my school football team. But I retired at 15.
My
coach retired.
Talking of age, Terry. Good morning, Terry.
Oh, Terry.
Terry says, "I'm guessing Dawn's big upcoming birthday is her 90th. Yes? Close, to be honest with you. Yeah, I feel like I've aged 30 years sitting here.
Yeah, well, you probably have.
Refereeing us two, yeah?
You probably have.
Yeah, well, exactly. You've played nice, that one, so well done, boys.
Yeah.
No, look, I tell you, it's very rare we have a set two.
You got me in a headlock once.
Set two.
It was a debate.
You got me in a headlock once.
Did I really?
Yeah, you did. I quite liked it. Yeah.
Was that work-related or just something at the weekend?
I clearly just had enough. I've clearly had enough.
OK.
Right, you just wait, Aidan. Right, thank you.
Good to see you this morning.
Thank you, Aidan. Thank you. You're not off to your brother's barbecue now, are you?
No, this afternoon. I've got another show next.
I'm still getting my head around your brother charges you for barbecue.
It was only a £5, but that was in 2006.
Your brother?
About 20 quid now.
Yeah, beef's gone up.
So what, you're going to be on Saturday Morning Live?
I believe so, yeah.
Oh, well, there you go, you see.
By popular demand.
By popular demand. Let's see if Ben and Tatiana actually want you. Morning, you two.
Morning, he is in demand. Viewers love Aidan, he's the star of the show, of course, isn't he? Big show coming up, 2 hours. Tatiana joins me today. Welcome, Tatiana, welcome back. Of course, we're going to be covering the Lee Carsley situation. I reckon he should just be sacked before the game even starts. How can you have an England manager? I know, Tatiana, you don't agree, do you?
I don't agree.
No.
But I'll explain why in the show.
Elsewhere, Gareth Gates, pop idol, is going to be joining us for... he's on a new tour, isn't he?
He is. He's in the West End, which he's done for quite some years now, so we'll be talking to him about that. And we'll be talking fashion today, because we will be joined by no one else than the Denim Queen.
And you're wearing denim, of course.
I am. Fitting.
You got the memo, not me. That's coming up in just a few minutes. We'll see you there.
Lovely stuff.
Excellent. Sounds good, doesn't it?
Gareth Gates, he was great. He had some really good, decent tunes there. He's got a fantastic voice.
I was mistaken for him once on a train coming back from Southampton to Waterloo in May 2002, right at the height of his pop idol fame. A load of Geordies who'd been down to watch Newcastle said, "Hey, that's Gareth Gates."
The light's gone out or something.
Oh, come on. You must be mistaken for someone famous.
No. I tell you what, I was always inspired by the fact when he came on and did that first little sort of interview, and of course, really bad stammer, couldn't get his words out.
Yeah.
And then he opened his mouth to sing, and out it came.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
No, it was amazing.
He was the same group, same cohort as Will Young.
It was. They were in the final together, weren't they?
Will Young.
Did you?
Did you?
Yeah, sorry, I know.
No, look, but I'm glad to know he's doing well in the West End, because obviously the pop career isn't there now. It's like the charts, but that's what they do, isn't it? These people who actually can really sing, they go on to the West End and perform in shows and all that sort of thing.
And he goes, not that I want to trigger you two again, but interesting what Ben said now about just sacking the England manager before the game even kicks off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's a hell of a build-up to the game, really, isn't it?
But why didn't he just keep his mouth shut?
I don't think he was prepared for the question, and that's what happens when you get somebody who's not used to that arena. and he's been used to coaching under representative sides, under 17s, under 21s. There probably isn't even a press conference for those games for a lot of them. So it's rabbit in the headlights stuff, or rabbit in the headlines, as I said earlier on.
Yeah, I just think he just needs to be very careful. As you say, maybe it is all down to the results, and that's all that's going to matter.
Yeah.
But people care about this.
I think they do care. I think they do care.
Yeah.
I don't think it's particularly important. Well, I've made my point several times, and I'm going to be making it again forcibly at 10 o'clock.
But last word to Susan. Good morning, Susan. Who recommends... Stop it, you two. Stop it. Playtex.
I'll have the last word as well.
Playtex.
Playtex.
Hold it on.
For everyone who's messaging, I do not wear a girdle. That's a fact.
And stockings.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Following a remarkably warm day yesterday, it is another very warm day in the northwest today. Cloudier elsewhere and further spells of showery rain in places. Although, having said that, actually it's mostly dry as we start things off this Saturday morning. A lot of cloud for England and Wales, especially in the east and the south, where that cloud will be low. It'll be misty at times. Through the day, the cloud will produce a bit more rain, and that rain will be of a showery nature, but there'll be some heavy bursts. It'll feel warm wherever you are, but in Scotland, especially to the west, as well as Northern Ireland, northwest England, temperatures reaching the low to mid-20s, feeling very warm in the widespread sunny skies we're expecting there. Perhaps some sunshine coming through for North Wales, East Anglia, for example, but it's at this stage in the day where we're likely to see increasingly heavy rain starting to push north into much of southern and central England and Wales. Misty low cloud for northeast England as well as eastern Scotland, but for central and western Scotland and Northern Ireland, a beautiful day to come. Once again, just like the last couple of days, widespread blue skies, temperatures reaching the mid-20s. A degree or so down on Friday's temperatures, but still summer-like warmth, finally following a disappointing summer. But as you can see, into Saturday night, the rain becomes more extensive across much of England and Wales, and it's heavy at times. Could be some thunderstorms out there. It's going to be a muggy night with temperatures staying up at 15 to 17 Celsius. Then that rainfall, well, it's going to be pushing north across the country. It could affect the Great North Run for a time through the middle part of the day. And it's going to be heading into the central belt, but fizzling out before it gets to western Scotland and Northern Ireland. So